The Indie Council is in session. Welcome, everybody. This is the place for the leading voices from across the industry to gather to talk news, titles, and everything indie. I'm your master of ceremonies, Jill Grote, the Indie Informer. And today, joining the council, we have celebrating a year in North Carolina, Mike Towndrow. Yay!
Y'all.
You said it. It's not even ironic at this point. It's
Not
just
anymore.
what you say.
Yay.
After 33 years, no longer ironic.
Ready to go abroad, Janet Garcia.
What's up? In 4 to 6 weeks, let's go. Passport
Yay.
renewal. That's still actually you can do it after it expires. It turns out, as long as it's within 15 years of issue. So
Yeah,
if you two have been putting that off,
So
maybe still do that.
now's your time. If you have, Mike is. We're all just background for anybody who has no idea what we're talking about. We've all been putting pressure on Mike essentially to get his passport, and he's not done it yet. But two of the other members of the Indie Council have. So, haha.
Well, listen, it's a big fight to ask me to leave the country. I don't even have a driver's license, all right? One step at a time.
I mean, you don't have to. No, okay, sorry. I'm going too off into the weeds. I'm gonna continue. No one pay attention to what I've been saying. Master of Murder,
Oh, good.
Jenny Wyndham.
Hello.
Hello, Jenny.
I've changed. I've rebranded everyone. It's now time for a new Jenny Wyndham. Murder Chica is my new handle. Thank you.
Let's all pause for the clip I'm going to probably snip in here at this moment.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. Your captain is dead. I killed him. Just like I killed that poor snail.
So yeah. Also, Jenny, I was just talking you up before we went to record of how fantastic you are at voices and things. I was so taken aback watching your stream. I'm like, why aren't you voicing everything?
Honestly, if anyone knows a person, give them my number. I have no idea how to even get into it. I just like doing fun voices.
They're so good.
Thank you.
Throughout the show, I hope you just slip into voices without telling
I should
anyone.
just start doing character bits.
So in order to give you actually, before we move on to indie news, I did just want to quickly shout out. It seems like the majority or all of us are going to Summer Game Fest. So yay! Anybody who's planning stuff, hit us up. Anybody who's excited, get prepared for our coverage on various different indie things.
Y'all want a Celsius? I'll buy a 12-pack and leave it in the hotel room. You know what I'm saying? Need a little boost midday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm the persona of Celsius. Does that make sense? No, never mind.
I thought it was excellent. And if Celsius wants to give you money for that pitch, I assume your number's up.
Yeah. Hold on.
Oh my god.
Celsius, live fit.
We dedicated trash, the waste bin dedicated to Celsius.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's gonna help you that you have here's a trash can full of all my Celsiuses.
Empty.
But, yeah.
They're in my tummy. Yeah. Real quick, before we get into indie news, I have a bone to pick. CG Danny B, what's going on? What's the problem with CG Danny B? Why is CG Danny B blaming his weak ass gaming problems on me? Get good at crab game.
Let's see if I can take a second to splice in what we might be talking about here for this clip.
I blame Mike too. I'm done with Mike. You could clip that, put it in the next episode of the council, and be like, Mike, you've got beef on the internet. And just a short clip of just like Danny dies. You know what? I blame Mike.
This man, the gall.
Yes. We both blamed you for a death in another crab's treasure. And it was completely warranted as far as we both are concerned. And anyone who was in that stream knows.
Danny, do I control your hands? No, I goddamn don't. Get good. Coward. I love you.
Love you. Speaking of indie news. The Tribeca Games, it's not really the festival, Tribeca Games, has announced its lineup, and they're super good, everybody.
Bangers.
Legitimately, if you have the chance to go, you will be able to play a ranger, a role puzzling adventure. Very, very good.
Jan's favorite game.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I saw this at GDC.
It's the one to watch.
It is.
I've coined it.
Yeah, it's Jan's one to watch.
Another one to watch for me, Blueprints, which is
Whoa, you got to come
essentially
up with your own branding, Jill. Come on.
the bluest and the printiest of all games, Blueprints. It's kind of like Betrayal, if anybody has played the board game
Oh
Betrayal.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So that's
I think you mentioned this one.
Yes.
Was it from the, oh gosh, what were we just at?
And then
recently?
Jill
GDC?
threatened to explain
Yes.
Betrayal to us all, but I'm like, I don't think you're gonna.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna
I mean,
work.
like everyone. You guys, if we're all at Summer Game Fest, I'm gonna bring Betrayal, and we can all have a big indie council game.
Yes.
Sure, I got a board game table that we don't use as much as we'd like to.
Just
'cause
travel
there's
it
two
up.
people and a cat.
I
So
love it. I'm imagining
The
the
cat
table
sucks
is
at
held
board
up by
games.
two
Yeah, I was gonna
people
say
and
the
a cat.
cat's not a very
Cat
good
hates
player, I
Monopoly,
assume.
dude.
Next game on the Tribeca list is Dark Web Streamer, and this
Oh,
one I know is
yes.
a
Hell.
light game.
Yes.
So excited for this
So
one.
excited.
It's a psycho horror RPG streamer sim that says become an occult streamer on the dark web. Like that's got Mike written all over it.
Mhm.
Jenny, we should stream it together.
I would love to. I'm so excited for this one.
This next one not that important for us, but I guess I'll
Oh
say
my god,
it
but I love it. Final Fantasy. Oh my god.
from
One
fire.
of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, from fire to Friguraga. Did I say that right? Did I say that wrong? Let me
Faraga?
say it.
Faraga.
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 It-
Remaking the Final Fantasy.
I
7.
realize that like they don't say it out loud. You know what I mean? Like
No,
so they
they don't.
shout it when they do the spell. So who's to say what it sounds like?
Yeah, I always hear it as just like fire. I'm like, okay, that's the fire spell. I don't know if this is a game, right?
This, I think, is a talk or like
Yeah.
a short
Yeah.
film or something.
Anyway,
It's weird.
cut that out of your memory. On to the next game. Good Night Universe
Yes.
is the
Very
game
excited.
sequel from, not the sequel, follow-up from the developers of Before Your Eyes. I was trying to say like open
I
your
thought
eyes.
you
I'm
were
like, that's not
intentional.
correct.
I thought you were building the anticipation.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, it is that good of a game.
is that
good. We need to
Oh my
build
god,
it.
play Before Your Eyes. Not enough people play Before Your Eyes.
Yeah,
Jeez.
it's available kind of everywhere. Like it's on Netflix
On
games.
Netflix, yeah.
So you can play it with your phone because you need need is strong. It is recommended that you play it with like a webcam or a camera. You technically can play without it. Like my brother actually played that way because he couldn't deal with there's like a blinking mechanic and it was like freaking him out. So he's like, I can't do it. Like my
But
eyes are gonna.
freaking you out is
I
sort of the
know.
point.
That's
of
kind of
it.
what I told him, but he's like, it literally like it has impeded my ability to like experience like. You know how like it's like when someone tells you not to think of like apples and then you're thinking of he went through that spiral. So you know, even my brother got through playing it with that in mind, and like it's such a good game. It's like one of the best games I've ever played in my whole
Yeah.
life, and
Yeah.
I want more people to play because it's so good.
It works
100%.
really well on Netflix mobile. Like if you don't have
Yeah.
a webcam or anything, like the camera on your phone is what it uses, and it's so
Awesome.
good. I played it the morning, like I don't know what possessed me. It was like the morning of TwitchCon, and I was like, oh, I have a couple of I woke up early, so I have a couple of hours just to like kind of kill before I go and do the thing at the convention. So I was like, let me just play a quick little cute game.
Yeah, let me just destroy my entire
Oh my god,
emotional
Yeah.
I
being.
was like 8 a.m. crying before TwitchCon. Like it was so bad.
I
But
was
yeah, it was worth it.
seriously, the last time I played it, I was in VR, which is
nice.
the way
Yeah,
I
the VR is
recommend
so good.
playing it. I was
Mhm.
legitimately afraid I was going to short circuit my
Yeah.
VR system, so I was crying so much. It's just like piling up.
Other than like I had a few peers who had like at launch they experienced technical issues. Like I haven't heard that as like a wide issue, but that was like their thing. Other than that, I've never heard of anyone playing this game and not loving it.
Yeah.
And there are
Mhm.
very few games that I can say that about, and I feel like Before Your Eyes is something like if you liked it's not the same kind of game, but like if you liked What Remains of Edith Finch, like that's the high it hit.
Mhm.
Like I haven't experienced a high since playing What Remains of Edith Finch, and it is just I cannot say enough how incredible the storytelling of Before Your Eyes is.
Mhm.
It is kind of like, do perfect games exist? I don't know, but we have Before Your Eyes, and that's pretty
Yeah.
damn close.
Yeah,
That's about as close
100%.
you're gonna get outside of like Portal 2. Like
Dude,
it
like,
is
No,
pinnacle storytelling.
no exaggeration. I consider Before Your Eyes one of the greatest games ever made. Like
Genuinely,
Yeah.
yeah.
top 10,
agreed.
top
Yeah.
5. Like it's AAA indie, whatever. And the fact they're marketing this as the spiritual successor to that, all in. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Does
for anybody who wants to know more about the follow-up, which is called Goodnight Universe, it is, I'm going to read the little blog here.
perfect.
In the narrative adventure Goodnight Universe, you play as Isaac, a 6-month-old baby developing mysterious psychic abilities. What you want most is to be loved and accepted by your family, but a secretive tech corporation wants you for their own. The game features an immersive face tracking mode, expanding on the innovation use of the camera-based technology the team is known for. So
So good.
we'll have to see what that means. I'm sort of afraid. I am sort of
I'm
excited.
a little
at the same
afraid
time.
just because I'm like, I don't
so
know if it's,
excited.
I can't imagine it being as good because it was so good before, but
Mhm.
I love story stuff and like weird power stuff. It's like one aspect of Life is Strange that really draws me into that franchise. The art seems very similar to Before Your Eyes, and I really like that art style as well. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't even really care. Like, you could just kind of do whatever at this point. But I'm really excited to, and it feels like Before Your Eyes didn't even come out that long ago either. So like, I'm thrilled that we have something else from that team. They're so talented.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Speaking of things coming from talented teams that we're excited for, the next game on this list is Neva, which is the follow-up from the team that made Gree or Gris,
Yeah.
depending on how you
Gree.
want to say it. I prefer Gree.
Grr.
Gree.
And most people might remember this. It was revealed, I think, during a PlayStation showcase. And it was the trailer that had you crying at the fate of a wolf. I'm not going to go any farther than that, but you'll remember. Anyone who saw it will remember what that is.
Very subtle.
Yeah. And this is the first time I believe anyone's gone hands-on with it. So another really cool one to watch. Skate Story is getting a hands-on as well. And
If I may, this is the Celsius Lift pick. Okay. Skate Story.
Skate Story. You are a demon in the underworld made out of glass and pain is the first sentence to this blurb. So if you didn't already want to check out Skate Story, that's one to check out. Last but not least at all, Thank Goodness You're Here is
Hell
getting
yeah.
yeah. I got to play this at PAX West last year. It's so good. It's one of my most anticipated games. Like, all of these games listed are basically most anticipated games.
Yeah.
This is incredibly well curated.
It's insane.
I don't know
Did
how
I-
they've managed to do that.
Have I ever mentioned on the show that I played Skate Story 4 years ago before Devolver picked it up? It's really
you
good.
might have, yeah, actually.
Yeah, it's real good. And I'm so excited to see it like even more polished and gnarly. They're not talking about the narrative, but like the narrative is a spin on, or unless it changed. It's a different interpretation of the Greek mythology tale of Orpheus and Eurydice. Thank you. Eurydice. And yeah, your skater is Orpheus skating down the layers of hell to save his love, pretty much. Gnarly.
Nice.
Just don't look back.
And it plays like
Um,
Skate.
The
Which is great.
thing,
How come you can never look back in these stories? Because that happens in the Bible too. Where he looks back and then his wife turns to sand, and it's like, come
it
on.
happens. It happens.
Let me have this, you know? Jeez.
Just check.
Also,
You know,
this
I
means
just-
by association, a ranger and blueprints have to be as good as Final Fantasy VII. I don't know. I feel like that's
Yeah.
that's kind of the
Honestly,
implication.
They're on the same, yeah.
You know, it's like there's some really like fire stuff here, and then like some not unknown quantities, but like, you know, we haven't had hands-on time with like some of these other titles, so it's like, okay, I'm
Safe
gonna
bets,
hope
though.
that they're the same. They're all like the same level.
They're all really, really exciting, and I wish I could be excited for it. This is where I'm going to be a little upset about all of this Tribeca announcement. Tribeca Games Gallery is running from June 12th to 16, and it is happening in New York. And that
Correct.
these demos are all exclusive, and they are in person, and that is it. If you do not go to the Tribeca Games Gallery, you do not get to play any of them. And I am so sad because I
Me
know
too.
that from
East
June
Coast, Beast
12th
Coast,
to
baby.
June 16, like I'm not going anywhere after Summer Game Fest. So I hope that we get another chance to see these. It does mean that there is some sort of playable form of these games.
Yeah.
I don't know what they have promised to Tribeca in order for them to be shown here, but maybe they'll release some sort of public thing after June 16.
It's interesting. It's strictly in person because during the first Tribeca games over lockdown, and granted it was over lockdown, so different circumstance, but we were able to preview the games over Parsec. Like they were able to
Yep.
just
Yeah.
offer the demos at home. I'm surprised they're not doing that, especially with the majority of the industry on the other side of the country.
Yeah. I definitely reached out to make triple sure that that was the
Yeah.
case. That was in person only, and they were very clear. Yes, it is in person only.
Oh.
So
Well, you got to imagine with Skate Story and Neva, we're probably going to see those during Summer Game Fest week. Maybe they do
I hope
hope
so.
drop a demo or something.
Knock
Yeah.
on wood, because I know that obviously Arranger and Blueprints were at GDC, so they've got something to play. I know Dark Web Streamer was also at GDC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
at
did
the,
not see it because it was creepy.
At the
At
the
the
thing
mix,
that
I
was
think.
very packed. No, not the mix. The other one.
Was
Day of the
right?
Devs.
Day of the
Day
Devs.
of the devs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the only ones that haven't been shown anywhere are Goodnight Universe, Neva. At Goodnight Universe and Neva, I think those are the only two that we haven't had anywhere else. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll see them this summer. Who knows? If you're
Good
going
eye. I think Goodnight Universe is the one we're not going to get any hands time with
anything on,
for
Mhm.
quite some time. I could see Neva doing Next Fest if that game is close,
Mhm.
but who
yeah,
knows?
because Neva is still set for 2024.
Yeah.
Knock on
Okay.
wood. I don't want to jinx
Yeah.
anything.
Has Devolver said anything about doing their old E3 thing, like the parking lot thing?
I haven't
Mm-mm.
heard
I don't think
I
they're
haven't
gonna,
heard
I
anything.
feel like
Damn.
it's been kind of like not
I'm
quiet
like-
from Devolver, but I feel like it's like they have a lot going on, but I feel like
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're not very front facing with like. I'm not feeling the marketing push as much. That's not to say they're
Yeah.
not working on that because I'm
Mhm.
sure they are, but they don't feel as top of mind as they have been in previous years.
Yeah, it was just, like they usually have like such a massive presence at like PAX East. They weren't at PAX
Yeah.
East this year. Like I'm pretty sure they already confirmed that they're doing their digital show. I'd imagine that's the same day as SGF probably usually is.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'll have to, just one more thing I have to keep an eye on for Summer Game Fest because there's a lot going
Yeah.
on that week, everybody.
Yes,
I
there
remember live reacting to it on stream while in the Uber back from SGF to
Oh yeah, I
the
do
hotel.
remember that.
It was a nightmare.
It was great content, Mike.
Shit,
Speaking
it
of
was
great
rough.
content coming from Mike, 6-1
Huh?
Indie Showcase has a
Woohoo.
premiere date.
Wahoo.
Tell us about it.
September 19th.
Ba-ba-bow.
Bam. We are breaking tradition. We are getting out of the way of Gamescom and PAX West because guess what? There's enough shit to worry about around that time of the year and around the summer season. So moving forward, we're going to carve out our own space and just hopefully carve out a brighter spotlight for our development partners. Get away from the noise. We feel like it's a little better. So a lot happening. We already have some games confirmed. Should be great stuff. I gotta show you, obviously under friend DA. I gotta show you the venue we're looking at. It's quite obnoxious.
Okay, everyone in chat, be cool. Be cool.
But yeah,
Um,
should be a good time.
I'm very excited. You are now accepting.
Oh, that's the important bit. Submissions are opening up June 1st. We want to give people a month heads up just so they could kind of like prep all their information assets, kind of that stuff. And obviously everybody's busy with the May launches and prepping for the summer event season. So June 1st is when game submissions are opening up. They're going to remain open for the entire month of June. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter, Discord, anything like that. Happy to talk.
Okay. And speaking of showcases, we had a showcase this week. It feels like this
Mhm.
week has been forever long, so it's sort of hard to remember. The ID at Xbox showcase with IGN happened Monday, April the 10th. No, April 29th at 10
Feels like April 10th.
a.m. It feels like it's been a very long time. This was actually the first showcase that we covered together as the Indie Council. So this is
Wow.
like a huge kind of milestone for us.
23
You always
years ago.
remember your first. Yeah.
You were such a young lad then, Mike.
I was. I had a full head of hair.
So I just want to throw out a couple of highlights I know we all talked about, but if something is not here, let me know about it. I think one of the highest things that we were all like pumped about was Promise Mascot Agency.
Hell
like
yeah.
how good does that
Mhm.
look? It looks ridiculous and amazing at the same time.
Yeah.
Mhm. I will say
Um,
I'm so excited because it's now it's announced, I can say, because it's a Kowloon title. And so I've
Yeah, it
been able
is.
to see that it was in development this whole time. And I was like,
Wow.
honestly, just waiting for it to get announced because I was like, I know that you all would. Like, I knew that you all would just vibe with it so hard. And so it made me really happy that y'all were just like, oh my God, the mascots. Yeah.
Can you give us a pitch on what it is for those who missed the showcase?
Yeah. So, oh God, Promise Mascot Agency. So, you're an exiled Yakuza who is being essentially sent to manage a sort of mascot agency, but it's not really as successful. So, it's full of misfits. You have to gather mascots and, allow them to shine and find their promise. And so, I don't think I can go into too many details since other than what was shown in the trailer, but in the trailer, they showed that you could basically take these mascots out and like they run into situations as they're doing their mascot thing. Like doors are too narrow for their giant mascot suits. And you have to you have a little bit of sort of this card mechanic that you'll play with to try and get in or out of these situations successfully. I just love how unhinged it all is. Like this isn't like, we're going to give you the cutest mascots possible. This is like weird ass mascots. So I'm really excited about it.
I appreciate the bald representation that was reflected in the thumb. I saw myself in that thumb.
Yeah.
Oh, Pinky?
Pinky.
Oh, it was Pinky. Okay.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
apologies.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, their name is Pinky, but they're shaped like a thumb. Yeah, I think they from so many things
If
struck me about
anyone
this.
didn't
Put that on the
see
box.
the trailer, that is a perfect representation of the feel. It's called a pinky, but it looks like a thumb.
I think
Go ahead,
what really
Janet.
struck me about this was just that initial I think the setup is just so enticing of the initial like, oh, it's like, well, first of all, it starts off with, even though this game did not hit for me, but it hit for a lot of people, Paradise Killer. It's like from the creators of Paradise Killer. And even though, again, Paradise Killer, I didn't stick around for it, but like I respect the vibes. Like it's a very intensely stylized, interesting looking game. So I'm like, oh, a developer that's down to take swings, ex Yakuza. I'm like, I like Yakuza. And then the mascot, like I think it's such a fun. I'm a big fan of cutesy things being used for more than just like it's cute. Like I like cute stuff that is just cute, but I think it's even more fun when it has some type of odd shtick to it. I think they towed that line between the mascots being cute and being creepy. Like I think they easily could have gone, oh, they're like almost too cute for the world, or they're like, it's too much like FNAF because they're like, they're just, and not like development wise, but they're like jank looking. Like they look like like sort of cheap, like they've been through things.
Authentic.
There's like there's one that's like
Things.
there's one that's like basically tofu, and it's like kind of reminds me of like the Resident Evil tofu mode, and like he's always crying. There's like another one standing in front of like a grill that's on fire. There's one in a hot tub. It's just like explore. It's just, it has the wackiness and the silliness and the cuteness. Like at one point you're driving, one of them's in the back of a pickup truck and you like shoot it out like it's a rocket. It's like, this is the kind of game where I look at it, I'm like, I don't even really care if you're good or not. Like I hope it's good, but I'm like, I'm there no matter what, because it's gonna be a ride. It is so exciting. And I felt like, I had done a reaction stream with MinMax, and I was hanging out with Ben watching this, and I was seeing this, and I was like, it just kept getting better and better to me. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And then, like, Ben was like, I don't know, it's like, it's kind of weird. And I look at the chat on the side, the Discord notifications are going off, and you guys are going crazy for it. And I'm like, this is my culture. So, yeah, Promise Mascot Agency, the number one thing for me in that showcase was definitely Promise Mascot Agency. If I could play one game today, I would play Promise Mascot Agency, and I don't think I'd have any regrets about it, regardless of how good it ends up being or not. Yes, it is so exciting. Yeah. Finally, games are new again. Let's go.
Yeah.
They fixed gaming. Yeah, the tofu is amazing because I think that there's like a tagline underneath. And this is like the weirdness that I love, because the tagline underneath says soft but wants to be firm. And I'm like, that tells me everything I need to know about this character. And I love them already in that like 5-word phrase. And so I think this captures also the like, okay, I'm so excited to meet every single mascot and figure out what their weird shtick is going to be and like what makes them tick.
Yeah.
Another game that has the cuteness, but maybe not so much of the weirdness, we'll see, is All You Need Is Help. And it seems to be a Tetris-like sort of puzzle game multiplayer with
Like 3D, like walking
Yeah.
around.
Mhm.
and top down ish,
Yeah.
isometric top down look where like everybody is working together to make a like put your puzzle pieces together and make a whole puzzle, but it seems like a big part of it is to kind of mess with people as well. It seems like there is some element of that. Jenny, I think you might have a little more to say on this one.
Yeah, this is one, oh gosh, this is hard because like the first 3 games we have listed here are the top 3 games for me, and I'm honestly trying to think of what I would want to play first. I think Promise Mascot Agency maybe edges out All You Need Is Help for me just because it's so weird, but All You Need Is Help is like, okay, I instantly thought of those like shape toys that babies have where it's like you're trying to put the shape in the right thing. And so you and your friends are all these different shapes. You're trying to rotate each other. But I was looking at the Steam page and it seemed to say you cannot actually rotate yourself. So you have to work with your friends to like
Okay.
push each other and
Oh.
rotate one another. So it's like you can't solve these puzzles alone, ostensibly. And so I can imagine the level of frustration that may come up with this kind of situation, but also how fun it may be. And it looked like there's other mini games too, like getting a ball into a hole or getting a lot of soccer balls like into one location. So they have other mini games they alluded to, but yeah, the shape puzzle fitting nature is the main thing, it seems like. The trailer song's a banger, by the way.
Yeah.
It just like it has
100%.
not left my head for this whole week. And I like that the texture of the game seems to be like crocheted or stitched, almost like little hacky sack Tetris pieces. And so it feels like a very soft, almost Yoshi's Island kind of
Yeah.
game. So yeah, I'm excited to give it a try. I have a feeling it'll either be like really fun or really frustrating. My one worry is like how slow will it feel? Like it felt like it could err on the side of feeling a little too slow after the novelty is worn off. And so I'm excited to just give it a few more rounds and see how they hope to like continue the novelty beyond just like the one sort of shot they have with, oh, rotate with your friends.
We'll see that. The next one was exciting because we got a release date. It was one of the very few actual release dates we got in the show, which we will probably speak to later, was Dungeons of Hinterberg, releasing July 18th. We are getting Dungeons of Hinterberg. We saw a little bit more of the swamp biome, which seems to give you the power to create a gelatinous cube, which sounds like fun. And I'm very excited to see what I can do with that and just squish people with it. I think all of us have played this at one time or another. I'm ready for it. Oh no, Mike
says no.
Mike, why haven't you played this yet?
I didn't get a chance to. I think it must have been at like a GDC or something, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think they had a demo too on, Steam, just so that Mike can't have any excuses. But no, I don't actually remember if there's a demo on Steam. I feel like you
opted
guys
into
played
the
it.
playtest, Janet.
So. Did you?
I'm waiting. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let us know what the community. You're or I in the community. You can
I'm ready to
tell us
hit
what
the
the-
berg. Yeah.
tell us what the normies are talking
Can
about
we
in that
all-
Dungeons Discord. All right.
Mike, I'm gonna
Janet,
need you
how
to
was Hades 2?
Just plug your ears really fast.
I don't know.
okay,
I didn't
Mike?
sign up
Don't
for it
worry
because I
about
didn't beat one. So
Okay, so we're gonna need everybody involved in Dungeons of Hinterberg to not let Mike into the playtest. Okay, that's gonna have to be a thing.
no, I want to know how. What is that community talking about in there? I am nosy. So like, if you can get in there, report back, please. But yeah, Dungeons of Hinterberg. This was their like Tears of the Kingdom trailer, which I think is fine. Like it definitely is. They leaned heavy into like the dungeon aspect of it, the puzzle aspect of it, the physics component, which I think looks interesting. I do think, as much as I made that Tears of the Kingdom comparison, because the cube kind of reminds me of so much of Zelda, modern Zelda is like pushing a box around or like levitating a box around for these. I think that has that, but it does also have its own kind of funky thing with like other magical sort of components. There's like a weird fish tube that they show off for part of this that seems interesting. You slide an electricity ball on it and then it hits the cube you made. They're doing something to make it their own, which I think is cool. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I feel like I really like what they gave me with this trailer, which is that it feels like each time we see this game, we see it with a slightly different angle, which tells me there's a lot packed into it. Is it too much packed into it? I don't know yet, but I like that everything feels purposeful in this multiple showing. I think a lot of it's so easy to make it like the same thing over and over again because you're always selling to like a new audience anyway. And I think like I personally applaud them for sort of taking this opportunity to show something a little bit different. I guess hopefully the challenge with that is like if that's your first time seeing Dungeon of Hinterberg, I wonder if that's like what is the best slice of this game to like show what it really plays like, because they have so much going on. Like I kind of am starting to have a little bit of that question, but yeah, I liked what I saw and I'm still excited for it. So
and then just quick rapid fire shout outs. I want to shout out Tales of Iron 2, Centum, Lost. That actually startled me. I wasn't prepared.
Little goblin game. Let's go.
Little goblins. Lost Record, Bloom and Rage. And then we have a semi pick in here. I'm not sure who threw this in, but Jackbox Naughty Pack.
Yeah. I like Jackbox. Genuinely, I think they have like really good game design, and I think they don't get applauded as much because it's like we know what they do. It's like they do party games. They're great, but like they're really good at them, and they have like really good tutorialization. And I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough, just because you kind of expect them. Like they make great party games, but like they make great party games consistently. Yeah. They're coming out with this bundle called the Naughty Pack, which is meant to be like an adults only take on Jackbox. And I wrote semi-skeptical in the parentheses because I am really wondering two things. One, what do they do to make it adult? Because so much of Jackbox is already like, I put like a dirty word. Oh my God. Which is fine. Like I think I have fun playing Jackbox games. My worry here is, will this be the Cards Against Humanity of Jackbox, where it's like, hey, we all loved Cards Against Humanity. If you're a millennial, you played that thing till the wheels fell off and you had a great time. It was so fun. That time came and went. It's not even like we're like above it's not like a PC cultural BS thing. It's just like it gets, after a while, it's like those kinds of jokes don't really feel as funny. It's kind of like, again, all the millennials out there, that episode of The Simpsons where Bart says the line and finally like no one cares anymore. They're like, I guess it's kind of funny, but like, whatever. So I worry that, and I think about other card games and games that I've played that have like adult angles, and usually like they're not much funnier or interesting outside of like, haha, it's funny. Like I have unicorn, what is it called? Unstable Unicorns, and I have the adult version and the regular version. And the adult one's like, oh, the horns are kind of inappropriate, but like other than that, it's like it doesn't really enhance the gameplay or isn't even like incredibly funny either. It's just kind of like, haha, like, and then you kind of move. So I wonder. I'm very curious because I think there's a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of room for error, and I really want to see what Jackbox does with it. And they didn't show much at this, which I guess is because it's an adults thing, they don't want to show it. But it's like one of those things where I'm like, what are you gonna do with this? Yeah. I'm intrigued by it, so I wanted to give it a shout out.
There is another game, an indie game that pretty much is Jackbox but adult. I don't know. I'm blanking on the name. Long story short, it's not great, and that could be credited to it trying to do the adult thing and just doesn't handle it well. I know the writing isn't all too great, but like, yeah, I'm very curious how Jackbox handles it because, yeah, Jen, like you said, everybody the fun. I mean, a majority of the fun with Jackbox is like we all write obscene shit in there, anyways.
Yeah,
so, like,
that's sort of that was my take when I first saw this on the showcase. I'm like, is there a non-naughty Jackbox? And I'm like, I guess you could play it with kids, huh? And like, technically, it isn't adult, but I've never played it with anyone but adults.
Yeah.
So,
real quick, I just wanted to shout out Tales of Iron 1 is currently like $3 on Steam if you want to catch up before the sequel comes out.
Before the second one comes out, because the second one looks creepy. It was way creepier than I was expecting it to look.
Well, them rats.
So, little rats and little
That's how the New York
rats.
subway system looks.
So let's go into what we thought of the actual showcase rather than the games themselves.
Wait, really quick.
Oh,
sorry. I feel like I definitely ruined your rapid fire because I'm like, I have to swing back. And, you know, people know Donut made Lost Records. I'm not worried about that. Lost Records is going to be just fine. Centum, I just want to shout out what it is. It is a narrative-driven adventure game where it's like a point and click, trippy, disturbing art, very much a like the pitch is you have 100 days to escape, but is that really the goal? I think this is gonna really hit, and it just looks like super intriguing. So if you didn't watch the showcase and you like adventure point and click games, or you're open to that kind of thing, please check out Centum and see if it intrigues you, because like that was like probably my number 2 next to Mascot Agency. So that's all I wanted to say.
It's gonna take over my entire goddamn personality.
I was watching this, like, I was live reacting in my Discord when this was coming up. I'm like, oh, this is interesting, a little pixel looking thing. Like, oh,
There's
ew.
an effed up phone that looks like a Furby,
Yeah.
Yes.
but like more messed up. Like this is it's gonna be good. I'm
It's like
excited.
a rat with a person's face on it, and
Yeah.
their eyeballs are doing different
Man
things,
rat,
but they've
yeah.
got human
Yeah.
teeth. And so if that sounds like your kind of thing,
Mine.
Mike.
Also, quickly, I want to shout out Key Locker as well. Key Locker, they're
Oh
Yeah, that
yes.
did look
Fantastic
really
folks.
good.
Looks
That's
really
a good one.
good.
Good call out.
fantastic folks. They got picked up by Serenity Forge. Perfect fit.
Oh, they did. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Serenity Forge was all over this trip.
They're crushing it lately. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they
I
were.
played this. I met the folks back.
They were
in,
down in the forge, and they
down
started
the
forging.
forge. They started doing shit. I played this back in PAX 2019, 2020, something like that. It's fantastic if you like turn-based RPGs. If you like rhythm games, it rocks.
Okay, before we move on to the bigger showcase, does anybody else want to shout out a game?
You don't have to say it derisively, Jill. I get it. I get we messed up.
I was gonna say, because I forgot that Key Locker was in the show, but if you wanted to play Virgo versus the Zodiac,
Yes,
it's
that's
by
it.
the same team.
Please do.
And
That's
it's
a good
really
game,
good.
yeah.
It's really good.
Humanity's
That's
come to
all.
Game Pass. Like just start shouting things that game.
Yeah, that was cool seeing humanity come to Game Pass.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. What did we think of the overall?
Now the real show begins.
the
Let's
real
go.
show.
Okay. I honestly thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge step up from what they had before. Start time was a start time. The they did like a host toss to trailer back to host structure with 3 hosts from IGN. I think
Mhm.
that was a little hit or miss. Like sometimes I do think it leaned a little too much into the like, let's do a quick skit, which like, hey, a lot of people involved. I'm not trying to shade any of the many moving parts, and of course we want to have tone and have whatever, right? For me, I think it was a little cheesy at times. But the thing I liked about the host format is I do think they did accomplish at times setting up, hey, what are the games we're about to see? Or hey, what did we just see? And I think that's where the hosting format was at its best. And I think it was at its weakest when it was like, let's do a bit about how many friends we have. It's like that stuff is just it's not even like the writing of it. That humor is hard to pull off and feel because we know it's fake because it is fake. 'Cause it's like set up. So that stuff's always a little bit like But yeah, format was good. The only real big negative I had was they had a funny enough, we didn't talk about it in the shout out section, but there was a team. God, it starts with a G. What is this? They had a montage. God damn it, Mike. All right. If anyone wants to actually scroll and find it's an alphabetical and I couldn't type it in, but there was a series of games that were shown in a montage format that went by
Mm.
really, really fast. And here it is. Gamera or Gamera. I'm not sure how they pronounce it, but they had a series of games they wanted to highlight that like, hey, these are coming to Game Pass. And it was Depersonalization, Firework, Keplerth, and Volcano Princess. But they put them like all kind of like back to back in a way that bled into each other. And then it looped back around. And even like when like they did the host toss, they were like, those are games from Gamera, which like, again, I'm not like saying, oh, why did it, but that's just kind of also like, I never really got clarity on like, wait, what did I see? Which game was what? Like, and they kind of had lower thirds, but they kind of didn't. And again, like, who's to quote unquote blame on that front? I don't know. And it doesn't really matter, right? At the end of the day, like that's the only part of the showcase that I thought was like, eh. And also I think it did end kind of weakly. I was like, it's kind of waning down. And they were like, and we're done. I'm like, well, I mean, we ended already, so it kind of worked out. But like, I do think the pacing, it didn't feel quite even. I think that tiny back half was a little weaker, but overall, like the structure, big step up from before. And I think they had like a lot of exciting titles to show off. So I was pretty happy with the showcase overall, but what'd y'all think?
I agree with you on some points. Like as far as the ending goes, it was a little weird, but I want to shout out that I'm very thankful that they did a definitive like, and that's the end of our
Yes.
showcase.
Yeah.
Now we are
Mhm.
moving on to playing it on, because the first one we definitely had that problem where they did not make that delineation. We were all sort of like, is it over? Are they still playing things? So really good job on that. I think some of the choices in pacing and just design choices, I don't know if that's the right word, but overall were sort of really baffling for me. Um, First, we got about like 15 minutes in, and we had a commercial break, which, they have to get this paid for. I totally get that,
Totally.
100%. Um, but the showcase it wasn't really that long. So to have a commercial in the middle of it,
45, right?
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
45 minutes long, right around there. So to have a commercial break right as we're sort of getting started kind of broke that um momentum for me, because like I said, I was reacting live in my Discord. All of my people are there. We're chatting away. We're excited about the things we've seen. We're going over the moon for all the silly things and talking about all the release dates and things, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, and now I guess I'll go get some tea while we have nothing to talk about for 10 minutes or 5 minutes or however long the break was. So yeah, that really stopped the momentum for me, and again, I understand why they did it, but I hope maybe they finessed that a little bit. The other really baffling choice for me though was to have the Triple I showcase
Yeah.
nested in
I forgot
this
about that.
showcase.
It was
That was
weird.
that was interesting.
And it
I've never seen
was,
that before.
yeah, it was strange because we have had a good run of indie showcases. We had the Triple I showcase, we had the Nintendo Indie World, and then this showcase. And there were a few crossovers. I don't mind too terribly. We didn't see anything that was exactly the same. And we got some information here we didn't get in other things. But instead of sort of acknowledging that we're taking from it, we're literally just inserting the last showcase into this in a truncated form. And that was bizarre. Um cool to see the AAA and all of its titles getting shout outs, but like, if I wanted to see those titles, I could go back and watch the AAA showcase. That was a good showcase, and it had its own, first year things we talked about at length that we were criticizing or praising. Um, so yeah, I would love to have seen the conversation of people being like, "Hey, do you want to just throw it in the middle here?" So again, another strange moment when you're reacting live and you're like, "We've seen all of these. We literally this happened 2 weeks ago." Besides that, I agree with Janet that there were a lot of really cool things here. I am surprised at how few release dates we got or announcements of any real uh, fervor, anything to really come out of it and be like, yo, this is coming and I'm so excited. Like, we got a few of those, but I think as far as if you're looking at the Triple I showcase or the Indie World showcase, I don't think this one measures up to those. And that's hard as it's the last one. Like, it's the last of the showcases. So when you're coming in third, in like when you are showing in third place, it's hard to like be compared to the other two, and you're going to be compared to the other two because they just happened. uh, so yeah, improving, yay. Mike, what do you
Yeah.
got?
Oh, go
Oh
ahead,
no,
Mike.
Jenny,
Jenny,
I
go.
want to hear your voice, but I
No.
want to hear your voice
I
in a
was
voice
looking at
voice,
Jenny to see who
okay?
was firing first.
Jenny, go. Jenny, do a
No.
voice.
Oh my gosh. No, it's
Jenny
like
shot
when
first.
do my compression.
Do a Mike
Oh my
impression, yeah.
hello, it's Mike. See, I can't
Nailed
like
it. Done.
I just have to
Absolutely.
get close
That's
to
how
the
I
mic.
hear Mike in my dreams, in my nightmares.
No, I was just gonna say I think overall I did enjoy the showcase. I felt like I came away with it with titles that I was excited about, which to be honest, like I think the Triple I showcase for me, I think just didn't have my style of games overall. Like I think for me, Xbox had games that I was like, this caters to me more as a player. So I think on that level, I was a bit more excited coming away. because like I haven't played Slay the Spire yet, so it's like I know the hype, but I haven't experienced it, things like that. I will say I liked how they did recaps, like almost every 4 titles they would have a recap, and I thought that was really good. It
Mhm.
was interesting, and I saw it both ways. I think some of the 4 titles that they grouped together were a little bit confusing to me, because I'm like, these are kind of disparate. And I'm thinking they probably did that so that they're a bit more differentiated. As we watch them, we can determine like the differences between them, remember them a bit better. But in my head, I was like, oh, I kind of wish they grouped some of these similar genres or similar styles of game together, because it felt a little bit like we were jumping back and forth. But again, I can see why they would want to do that. And the recaps kind of did the thing, whereas like I could remember the games anyway. So I think it served its purpose. I will say the thing that was intriguing to me, and I was in the Wholesome Games Discord, I was like, oh my gosh, they got like a feature, Triple I got a feature in the showcase. And I think it definitely is a win for the Triple I showcase as their inaugural year. They're getting this validation from Xbox. It's like, I can see why Triple I would want that. And I think that's a really big win for them to get that kind of feature. I also think it is really a little bit confusing to have Xbox showcase it. I think it makes sense from a Game Pass level, like, hey, here are some recent titles that are also going to be on Game Pass. But I think the alignment with the Triple I branding was kind of like just a little bit surprising to me.
To cut in briefly on that, since
Yeah.
we're talking about it, I feel like that might have been more of an IGN thing than a Xbox thing. That's
Oh,
kind of how I
interesting.
took it.
Okay.
Just with the Triple I partnership, similar to like
Yeah.
Wholesome and Keeley stuff and the
Yeah.
mix, like how they host on IGN, GameSpot, whatever it may be. Maybe that's what that connection was. I feel
Possibly.
like
Yeah.
if this was purely an Xbox production, similar to the third party showcases that we get, maybe it would have been more pure Xbox and maybe just feature like whatever those like maybe 3 or 4 of the games from the Triple I just show up on the Xbox show without that Triple I branding.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was just interesting because I think it's the first time that precedent has been set, because
Yeah.
previously, if a game was Game Pass and was in a different showcase, they would show up in the Xbox showcase, but then like they wouldn't have the other showcases branding. So I
Mhm.
think I'd be really interested to just find out more about like, kind of like you said, Jill, like what was the conversations that were had? What did Xbox see, or IGN, like what did they see as the benefits for this? Was this to help amplify Triple I and just help them like really establish themselves as a showcase, which I think is also very valid. But it was surprising because that I agree. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. So that was like a notable thing for me in the showcase. But yeah, I liked it. I think I honestly didn't even notice that the lack of release dates, because I
Mhm.
was just
Me
so excited
neither.
about some of the games. I was just kind of like, whoa, this is cool.
I'm
So
kind of
you
used
have
to that when it comes to indie showcases at this point.
Yeah,
Like
that's
for
fair.
something like
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. It's kind of rare to have, because I think too, like there's not as much expectation, like
yeah.
in the sense that besides obviously, your Silk Song, people are like Silk Song,
What?
but other than
We'll
that,
learn
like
about it in a month, don't worry.
other than that, like in a non, this is gonna sound mean, but I don't mean to be mean, but in a non-mean way, like y'all are lucky people even know what your game's name, let alone like the window and the date and the whatever. And I think in some instances, it's kind of like nice if people might not, because like some development cycles get really long. Like there are games,
Mhm.
all of us have been following forever. I mean, Mike, you mentioned that one skating game that like for other people, it might be your first time hearing about that.
Yeah.
The one where you're like, you're a myth and you're made of glass, or what's the name of that game?
No,
Skate
nailed
Story?
it. Yep.
Skate Story, yeah.
Skate
Like,
Story, yeah.
For me, this is only like the second or third time I've heard about Skate Story. For other people, it's probably the first. And for you, you're like, oh, I played that 5 years ago. Like,
Mhm.
that's that range is wild. And but
I
then
mean,
but
it's
that's
like
very
the power
normal.
of indie and
Yeah.
when it gets
Yeah.
picked up by a major publisher.
But I do
It's
think
wild.
I do kind of wish, and I wonder why, and maybe it's because it's like, I don't know, maybe drawing attention to the wrong things, but I kind of wish there were showcases that leaned more into like, what am I really looking at here? Like, is this the first, it's kind of like the world premiere. And like I'm kind of memed to hell, like world premiere. But like, not only is it kind of cool sounding, because like whoever did the VO on that snapped, but also it kind of helps like delineate this is, oh, let me perk up for this because I'm getting like a new piece of information, or like, oh, I'm getting a date or something. Like I think showcases often bury the lead in what is the new information and what am I supposed to walk away with, sometimes to like convey like the artistry of like the experience of the game. I'm like, what am I looking at? I don't know, and it's gone. And it's like, okay, and maybe that's specific to us and how we cover it, where it's like we're watching, we're reacting, and we're not like regular people. Like maybe regular
Well,
people
Jen,
don't
let me tell
care.
you
I
about the
don't
Six
know.
Way Indie Showcase, where we do delineate whether it's an exclusive look, a showcase debut, or a world premiere. And on the website, you can find out what exactly the new detail is.
They like always be selling.
Always be selling, baby. um, I thought the showcase was a major improvement from what we saw last time. I think the pacing was better. I think, yeah, the scripting and delivery and stuff, yeah, sure, like a little cheesy at times, but that can get tightened up. That's fine. The lineup was great. Yeah, the weirdest thing or things, the triple I thing, which yeah, I in my heart of hearts, I think that that's an IGN connection kind of thing. And yeah, the ad breaks. I think there was multiple breaks.
Really? I thought there's just one. Maybe there were
I
multiple.
don't know. And like again, I get it. I respect you. Gotta make your money. You gotta do your thing. Great. I think there's more delicate ways to do it. Like thinking about the mix, for example, the mix. I like how they handle their ads and sponsors. Like just give them a nice little shout out during the show. Cool. Moving on to the games.
Yeah. Well, it was an
Again,
ad for like IGN product.
yeah,
So it's
exactly. So
like
I
they
understand.
had
Like,
sponsored like
yeah,
because I think they had that integrated like Xfinity. It's like, oh yeah, it's like a look toss up. So I don't know. Like I think that just is what they wanted to do. You know, like
yeah,
because I don't think
and
it's not like they had to like, oh, we're IGN, we have to run an ad about IGN. Like they chose to
totally.
run. You know, like that. I mean, they is very loose here because it goes, you know, up to major other
Yeah,
companies that maybe wanted it, but like it's not like Xfinity paid to be there. Like
yeah,
IGN is running. It's like if we, you know, did a showcase and then we had like an ad for the podcast, which you're welcome to do, but it's like that's not like you had to give that deliverable back to yourself.
yeah,
So I don't know.
yeah. I think there's just again, you want to put your brand out there, you want to put your name out there in the forefront. I think there's a more delicate way to do so. I appreciated the pre-show was just IGN content. Like it was like
Yeah.
when I tuned in, it was the IGN first for the new Yellow Brick Games. Is that the dev? I think that kind of stuff. Great, yeah. Pre-show, lead up, pump out all the IGN content. Dope. But yeah, during the main show for like a significant commercial break, it definitely killed the momentum quite a bit. That being said, huge step up from last time, and it was an enjoyable 45-minute show. And I'm so glad we got the delineation between like pre-show, main show, post-show, and like reminding folks that like they're doing an episode of Unlocked, they're doing the dev interviews or a deeper dive into some of the other things that we saw during the show. Awesome. So yeah, big step up.
100%. I think now we have to move over to a slightly more sad, upsetting news story. So prepare yourself. The headline of this Bloomberg report from one Jason Schreier reads, Take-Two Interactive shuts down 2 game studios. And I'm going to actually read the whole thing because for a lot of people, you are not able to read more than the first paragraph. So here we go. Video game publisher Take-Two Interactive Software plans to shut down 2 subsidiaries as part of a mass layoff across its divisions, according to documentation reviewed by Bloomberg. The first outfit is London-based Roll7 developer of action game Rollerdrome, according to a note to staff. Take-Two plans to close the studio and will offer severance agreements to its staff. The other is Seattle-based Intercept Games, maker of the space flight simulator game Kerbal Space Program 2, according to a notice filed with the Washington State Employment Security Department on Monday. The notice revealed that Take-Two plans to close an office in Seattle and cut 70 jobs, or roughly the number of people who worked for Intercept Games. Last month, Take-Two said it would lay off 5% of its staff, or around 600 workers. Both shuttered offices were part of Private Division, a label of Take-Two that was founded in 2017 to publish small and mid-sized games. Other staff under Private Division also lost their job as part of the layoffs. Alan Lewis, Take-Two's vice president for communications, said in a statement that the company is not providing additional details on the layoffs announced in April and that it continues to make updates on Kerbal Space Program 2. The video game industry has faced widespread cutbacks over the past year, with companies including Sony, EA, Microsoft slashing jobs and shuttering subsidiaries. That is the full text for anybody who was not able to say it, to see it straight up. So, this is for anybody who is interested. Take-Two at first glance doesn't seem like it should be in the indie sphere, but that paragraph there that talks about Private Division, which was a company. It is founded by Take-Two, but it is a indie publishing label. And we can go back to what is an indie and what that kind of money part of the
God, please
indie
no.
goes into. But yeah,
Please, I have a family.
go back and watch that whole argument that we had a couple of episodes ago, because it was a really good one. But to my mind, these are indie developers, and they are, for all intents and purposes, being shuttered. And of course, that was Roll7, who did Rollodrome and Ollie Ollie World, and Intercept Games, which is Kerbal Space Program. How are y'all feeling?
If I could butt in with a tweet that I saw right before recording, this is from Del Walker, who's a BAFTA committee member. Tweet out earlier, you could create a Golden Joystick nominated indie game that has a 9 out of 10 on IGN and Steam reviews, wins BAFTA for Best British Game, is profitable, and the Megacorps will still shut you down.
Yeah.
And that's in reference to Roll7.
Yeah.
Which Roll7,
Rollodrome.
legitimately one of my favorite studios out there.
Like, it is, don't Google Roll7's like website, because it is so upsetting to look at this amazing team and how much they obviously loved being there, and you can like see them being together and doing fun things and being passionate about their jobs, to see that for some reason Take-Two Interactive just decided to shut it down.
Yeah, and Matt from 61 Indie, we shared the news in our Discord. His response was, I would absolutely love to see the numbers to back up this decision when GTA Online is just printing money.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, the Take-Two like president has got like an exorbitant amount of money in like bonuses this year, if I remember.
Of course.
So these are not these are not studios that are being shut down because the games were bad. Kerbal Space Program 2 didn't do as well as everybody hoped it would, but it was still not like horrific. And Roll7, again, like Mike said, winning awards, commercially viable. Like, there's literally no reason they should be involved in this, except that, I don't know, when money starts to take a dive, indies are really kind of the first in the danger zone, because they are weird and experimental, and they don't have all the backing that a AAA would have from their fandom. So it's just a real harsh thing to see that this is sort of where indie games and indie creators live in this space, and how they have to be worried about everything that's going on. When you hear that there are layoffs happening anywhere, it's got to be scary, even if you're not involved with those companies, to see these major companies like Roll7 and Rollerdrome and Ollie Ollie World should not have been in the firing range at all. So if these are the kinds of developers that are getting completely broken apart, like what's stopping them from doing this to anyone else? And I think the answer is there's not much stopping them. So
Yeah, I think it's also a reminder of just the false security that you often can feel or want to feel for people when they sign like a deal or get acquired or developed underneath like a parent company. Like parent companies are always going to parent company. The end. Like, you know what company I hate? The company that owns whatever company that you actually end up working for, because, you know, it is, besides just having like a lot of overhead, it is like a classic, everyone wants to pass the buck. I've never known anyone that was bad. Everyone above the person was like, you know, it's, oh, Mr. So-and-so. It's like the freaking, what is it? From
You went
Spoils
so
for
New York there.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the freaking.
It's like a freaking.
Yeah, y'all watched Loki
Capiche,
when
you
they
know what I'm
had the little council. I forgot the name of them. And it's like, oh, the
Indie Council,
timekeepers.
yeah.
No, the
Yeah,
timekeepers.
Council.
The timekeepers. They're not real. Spoilers for Loki. They're not real. Like, they're just there.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, it's like, that's when I think of parent companies, I think of the freaking timekeepers just sitting there, just like someone's shutting things down. But yeah, I mean, all all nerd references aside, like this sucks. Like you know, Roller Drum and Ollie Ollie World are some of like my favorite games. Full disclosure, I did consult on Ollie Ollie World, but that was like, I mean, it's a banger title. Like you
It's so
don't even gotta
good.
ask me. Like there's so many
Mhm.
people that have, you know, back that. It's so acclaimed. But yeah, I mean, any budget, anyone that has done a budget and done a budget successfully is that the top to bottom thing. You put your highest stuff is the last to get on the chopping block. And yeah, I think Jill, I mean, obviously we don't literally know and we'll never know what goes on behind the scenes, but it does kind of feel like if you're working from the bottom up, maybe this is something that you put at the bottom, despite how good it is and how cool it is. Because I think in some ways, like a really successful, smaller title maybe doesn't even do as well as like a bigger, worse title. Obviously, it's not always the case. We've seen like large games flop and then shutter. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate because I wish that there was security somewhere, but there just really isn't. So I don't know. You have to do your best and keep creating. And I hope the developers that, you know, are at these teams find a good place to create and keep doing their work because obviously they're talented. But that's the other aspect that sucks because it's like, it's not enough also just to be talented on your own. I mean, anyone can make their own game by themselves, but like these were teams of people and like, I don't know if they're all get, you know, what are the odds of that they're all going to go and like do their own thing again together? It could happen, but like you lost something there. Like you don't have that team that made Aliyah. You don't have that structure. And like those things are really valuable too. It's more than just talent. That's why we see plenty of spin-off studios where it's like, well, they made something really good and it doesn't quite work out. You know, you don't always get that magic again, you know? So I think that's what sucks about this. It's like you had it. Like it's so hard to make a great game. Like we talk about this time, like, oh, it's okay, it's good. Like a game at that level is so rare. So for that to be thrown away, it's just it's a real loss to the industry, honestly. So yeah, sucks to hear this news.
Yeah, I'm curious too because I can like it doesn't. I don't agree with it at all. I think from like the business capitalist perspective, I can see like Ollie Ollie World and Roller Drum were more niche titles. They're one off. They're not following that trend of like, hey, this is a game that's going to have like DLC forever. This isn't a games as service. So I can see like the capitalist thinking behind some of this, perhaps. I'm really. Did y'all see is Kerbal still happening? Because that's technically still in early access, right? So it's
I
like
guess not,
they
right?
did say that they were still supporting that.
see, because that's absolutely wild to me. Because if you have the entire team, like you now have to onboard a brand new team into this massive game with very specific audience, your player trust has been completely eroded at this point. So it's like it just makes no sense to me, like from a logistic perspective. Like you are going to waste so much money and trust and time simply on getting not even back to where you were, but like lower than where you were. So yeah, this whole thing is just baffling to me, and it is really just, I think there was a level of fatigue that I've felt where I'm like, oh, maybe, you know, we've had 2 or 3 waves of layoffs. Maybe we're going to have a bit more of a chill time for the rest of the year. And I think there was that fatigue that was like, maybe we're done for a little bit. And this is kind of one of those reminders like, no, actually we're still in the thick of it. And I think that for me as someone, which is what we talked about, like being in the industry and like dealing with almost that burn of constantly just being aware that your peers and your friends are and your job may be at risk, I think is something that has been striking with this announcement for me.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out this is gamesindustry.biz, the CEO of Take-Two. They disclosed that both him and another high-ranking member of Take-Two, their pay would be $72.3 million in a mix of cash and stock, which is split 60 to 40 between them. So,
Dude, I can't even fathom what
Wild.
that's like.
No, me too.
Right?
That's horrible.
and this was from last year, so it may well have gone up. Who knows? But as of last year, they were making more than $70 million.
You don't
between the two
need
of
that.
them. And
No.
we are shuttering 2 great indie developers.
It's awful, dude.
Yeah. So to think about greener pastures.
I have 2 quick things for like
To think about
Little-
greener
Greener
pastures.
pastures.
No, go ahead, Mike. What's up?
2 quick just like good news kind of things.
Okay.
I'm ready. Let's
I
hear
love
it.
Both just shout out to both Rusty Retirement and Another Crab's Treasure have both surpassed 100,000 sales
Yes.
Mhm.
across all platforms, which is fantastic.
Awesome.
Manor Lords hit 1 million already.
It's real good, y'all.
Fantastic. So like keep on
Things are-
supporting
Manor
indies.
Lords
Things,
and
you know,
Yeah.
it's not all dark.
Yeah.
Just keep on supporting good games, good projects.
That is good.
Manor Lords also got 3 million wish lists right before launch. That is a
Yeah,
It's
it's like
wild.
isn't the
astounding-
highest wishlist game or second?
Like,
No,
highest?
it's
it was.
so good though.
It
Like, I'm
was,
not
yeah.
gonna lie. I think it earned it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna check it
Hades,
out.
them
Hades
this
2 now
week.
number 1
Hades
because
2,
Manor Lords is
number
now out of the way.
Yeah. Also, Steam Farming Fest is going on, everybody.
Let's go.
Speaking of
Woo!
Manor Lords.
Speaking of, it started April 29th and it's running through May 6th. That is next Monday. I can't believe we are already in May. So check it out. It is going on right now. It's got sales, it's got demos, it's got a whole bunch of good
It's
stuff.
got farms,
going
it's
on
got
here.
cows, it's got
It's got
sickles,
farming, it's got cows.
There's bunnies
Uh,
included here, horses.
horses.
Name more animals. I'm just looking at
Pigs.
what's I have the so an interesting thing too for this, if you haven't because I haven't really checked out as many of these Steam events.
Mhm.
So even just looking at this now, like on my own account, like they have like stuff that's on your wish list that is either discounted or maybe has a demo. So that's where I'm like, okay, like Bun House popped up for me. That's like one of my
Hell
wish
yeah,
listed
Bun
games.
House.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But Echoes of the Plum Grove popped up for me because that's on my
Yep.
wish list. Manor Lords popped up. Manor Lords is also on Game Pass, so I'm gonna play it on there, like through the PC Game Pass or whatever. The
I don't
Game
even
Pass
know
Supreme.
how you play it on Game Pass.
Well,
So
you
I'm really
You can
interested.
play on PC.
PC Game
Oh,
Pass.
okay.
PC Game Pass, yeah.
Okay, I was like, I don't know how you play this on console.
Yeah,
but-
no, it seems like it'd be hell. I didn't even look into if that was
Yeah,
possible.
no.
I think it's just on PC.
Yeah, it's probably
PC Game
just
Pass, which is called the Game Pass Ultimate. I think they renamed it. Whatever.
Who the
Give
hell
them
knows?
PC
as
Game Pass.
if you give
You're
them
all
as
good.
much money as they let you, I'm sure that you can download
You
it.
call it whatever you want.
Yeah. And they have the little recommended for you section too. So I will say, even if you don't want to go through the weeds of like everything that's there, like there is a little bit of surfacing what they already know about you and what you've kind of told Steam about your interests that can sort of get you started on digging into the festival. But this looks awesome. There's like
Yeah.
a game called Traveler's Rest. There's like a
Traveler's
big
Rest
beer
is
there.
really good.
It's
That's
that
on
looks
my-
fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Dude,
Um,
Apico is $12 off.
Yes,
Um,
and they're doing like a new update.
There's a new
recently, I
update with
believe.
that. If you want to save 50 cents, Rusty's Retirement, which just came out, $6.30.
You get
I haven't
free
played it yet. I
shop,
just bought it.
free point
so
shop
fun.
items. What does that mean? I want those.
You get the point shop.
I think that's like the Steam, like
Yeah, the
Yeah,
frames,
hell
yeah.
like
and
make your
stickers.
profile
Buy
look
your
different.
frames and
You
stuff.
can get an animated sticker of a cow.
Yeah,
This
you
sounds
always
like a
got
big
Hell yeah.
facetious. I love crap like this.
dude, every sale, every day you gotta get your new
You gotta
sticker,
be
your
going.
daily sticker.
I also want to shout out Timberborn specifically because
Beavers.
the PR connection there always has a fantastic pun, like a beaver pun or a wood making pun. So Timberborn, go check that out.
Nice. Ooh, Wildflowers is on sale as well, and that is probably, I think, one of the standout like farming sim narrative games, probably in the last couple years. Goes some really good places.
Yeah. So
Sorry, what was the name of it again? You said flower.
Wildflowers.
Wildflower.
It's spelled WYLDE.
Oh yes,
yes,
yeah, I
yes,
know
yes.
this. Mhm.
mhm.
Yeah. Really, really good game.
Who in the notes wrote that's a sick feature image?
I did.
that was,
Look at it. Look how
that was
good that
Joe.
is.
No, it's great. It looks like a
It's
like
such
a,
a
Looks
good-
like a carton of milk.
it looks like I'm
Yes.
walking into a Stu Leonard's.
It's like a little
It looks,
Americana.
it looks like the
woodcut
side of
kind
a butter box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
So if nothing else, go to the Steam Farming Fest just to see that amazing kind of woodcut print here because it's so good. Someone has to make these, right? There has to be like, what? There's a farming fest. What are we gonna make for the farming fest? And they just outdid themselves. So
I'm excited to see
good
the art for the planes, trains, and automobiles fest.
Mhm.
But as a good segue into our topic of the show, we have a lot of games in this farming fest that include like farming sims in general, cozy games. And the topic of the show is indie/gaming stigmas. I know that it is one of those things, and it's tied up for me. I don't know if it's tied up for everybody else a lot in like gender politics as well.
Mhm.
But it is hard
Speak
to
on it.
throw out, like if someone asks you like, "Hey, what's a game you're really enjoying right now?" Like it is very difficult to throw out a farming sim or just a sim or a walking simulator or anything of that in that vein, uh, and have them listen to the next thing you say. I've definitely had people tune me out after shouting one of these things out. Um, and I think it actually changed a lot of my tastes, and it certainly changed a lot of my tastes. Like people who know me, have probably heard this story before, but I don't think I've told it here. I didn't actually start playing indie games until I was an adult. And a big part of that was because when I was a kid, young teenage girl and younger, I started playing games at 6. Um, there weren't a lot of other women or girls who were also gamers. So the tastes were determined, and who determined who was actually a serious gamer were usually the male friends I had around me. So having interest in games that were not AAA to begin with, or not quote unquote real games, um, that stigma kept me from trying other things because I needed to prove myself to be a real gamer, to be actually in the space and to constantly being like, no, I really do like it here. I really do like this. I'm not just doing it for attention or, whatever. So I am I'm really happy to see that the Steam Farming Fest is a thing and that people are able to go and to celebrate that now. And I hope that things are changing a little bit. Um, but there are still some genres that you just don't talk about as like serious games. Am I alone in this? Nobody wants to.
Why did I? Okay, sorry. No. And then
We all usually talk over each other. That's why.
yeah,
I know.
like,
I was like,
well,
I'm gonna be nice. And like,
yeah,
let
exactly.
someone-
Everyone waited, and then it made it awkward
was
because it
too
was like you're like,
long.
"Am I alone?" And then it felt like you were alone, and I
was
felt
like,
bad.
damn.
And then
I'll
I had
just
to
walk
laugh
away
because it
now.
was just like it was everything happening at once.
Is that great?
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of layers to unpack here. I think in general, people can have kind of a dismissive attitude about more fringe genres, and by fringe, I mean anything that isn't action adventure, third person action adventure, platformer, shooter, like, kind of what you think of when you think of a video game, like that sort of quick immediacy. Because you'll see that too with like, and sometimes it's joking and sometimes it's not, right? But it's like, even with I think about over on Remap Radio, like Rob's really into like, I don't know, like old war train stuff. I don't know what's going on, right? And it's like, haha, it's funny to meme about that. But at the same time, it's like, that's like a layer of expertise and insight that, makes his experience unique and that like I don't have. And that like, it's like maybe you should, toss and listen and kind of honor that too. Like it's, it's fine to like joke and gaff. But I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of times where it's like, oh, like, what's this thing? I don't know. I guess a lot of people like it, but like, I don't get it. So whatever. I think it is easy to like be dismissive. And I think even like within our own industry, like peer to peer, friend to friend, whatever, like we need to be a little bit mindful of like, hey, sometimes it's jokes, but sometimes, well, let's unpack that joke, right? Like, what do you really mean by that? And I think definitely with farming sims, even more so than like those examples I gave, I think they definitely get the brunt of things because they are in that like quote unquote girl game label, because it's like cute and kind of like soft and sort of domestic and rural and whatever. Like for some reason that just gets associated with women. I mean, I'm sure we can trace the histories of why that is. Like there's many like studies and research and like, museum alcoves to the kind of girl games of history, whether they're like games quite specifically made for girls, games that are marketed to girls, games that get perceived as feminine. But I do think that farming gets extra flack because it has grown in popularity, because it is like a little bit more associated with like feminine sensibilities. So people are kind of like, meh, meh, meh. Like, and it's like, hey, I don't, crap on your stuff. It's like, you don't think I'm tired of seeing certain games? Like, I just sit down and I just shut up because it's like, whatever, it's not my taste, but that's fine. And I think there's a lot too of just like not even just people not getting it or liking it, but I think there really is like a deep dismissal of farming sim games, of cozy games, of, you know, wholesome games, as some would say, of people being like, I mean, I don't know. What is it really doing? And I think there's a level, and I'm all for like scrutinizing games. Like, I am a critic because I like criticism. I like unpacking stuff. I like getting into the weeds of things. But I feel like there's almost like not even the space to have those conversations sometimes because it is so dismissive. It's like, I don't know, like, what is it, cute because it's a cow? And it's like, yeah, you know what? It is cute because it's a cow. But I also have more to say than like it's cute because it's a cow. There's like how the systems function. What's the speed like? What's the movement like? What's the, you know, what is the gameplay loop? How's it feel to play for a long time? How's it feel? Like there are so many layers and actual interesting conversations we could have if some people were more open to the idea that there are interesting conversations to have. We're like, yeah, sure, there are a lot of games in this style, but there's a lot of games in a lot of styles, and they're all a little different, and they all have different like angles and sensibilities and things that are good and things that aren't. And I feel like for some reason, it is very easy for people to be like, I don't know, another game where I have an axe and I cut a tree, and I'm like, yeah, but like, when are we getting the axe? And when are we cutting the trees? Like, those are the conversations like I really want to have. And I think too often it's seen as like, oh, well, if I've played one or if I've seen one, I've seen them all. And I think that's because at a glance, they do have a lot of similar beginnings. And I think people like that ends up, I think it's very easy for people to convince themselves that there's not more here than what meets the eye. And I want people to be more open to how much depth there is in the genre.
I ran into that a lot. One thing that just came out that everyone should play, Botany Manor. I have been singing the praises for this game since I first played it. It's been years. Um, I recently did a stream playing a bunch of it on not everything and didn't spoil everything, so you can go check it out. But I am surprised with the amount of people who were watching it and were like, "Oh, I might actually have to check this out." I'm like, I've been praising this game for years. I've been talking about these things that like are unexpected and the way that it's dealing with like roles you're not expecting and what's happening narratively and how interesting and intricate the puzzles are and how they lead you to a new thing and the way that the development has done something so small but so it's subtle but so cool of like letting you pick things up and put them anywhere and being able to like how that makes you feel like it is actually a real place and a real home and digging deeper into if you're reading the backstories of things you know how people's lives are going and how much like society and class is involved in all of this and how much gender is involved in all of this and how much education is involved in all of this versus like what a lot of people look at when they or say when they see Botany Manor is like, oh, it's about plants, those flowers. Like, I'm not interested. And I'm like, no, there's so much deeper to it. And I can't get people to see it until I show it physically.
I'm like, sorry, there's no gun. No, just
There's
sorry,
there's a flower gun.
I'm like, you know, yeah, but anyway.
And it's like, I don't have any problems with like games with guns. Obviously,
Same.
There's tons of fun, but like
Shotgun Farmers, let's go.
There we go.
Shout out to Quasi, friend of my friend of life.
Friend of my friend is my enemy.
Hi, friend of Janet.
Yeah. But we don't get these sorts of automatic dismissals when it comes to those games.
Yeah, I think it's weird how the I was putting on my mic voice again.
Yeah, she did really good that time.
really good. Yeah, I think there's so many layers to it because there's like the sort of infantilization of like women and girls who play games specifically. I think there's this idea of like, oh, if they like something, it must like anytime girls, especially there's this phenomenon of like if teenage girls like something, it must be dumb is kind of this mentality. Like I think like way back in the 60s, it was the Beatles. Now it's like, you know, BTS or Taylor Swift or things like that, where it's like, oh, if teenage girls are obsessed, Twilight, if teenage girls are obsessed with it, it must be vapid and there must not be much to it. And so I think there's that layer of like socialization we have, particularly like I live in the US, we live in the US. That's like what we experience in the US. but also like with the games themselves, it's like I think you both were saying, oh, they must not have content worth digging into because it's made for girls, and I think that's really frustrating. It's like the memes where it's like, oh, you like the Marvel movies, like name 5 Marvel superheroes. It's like you're constantly sort of being like tested, like, oh, is there knowledge that's worth being tested on in these things? Which is really funny because honestly, if you ask anyone about like the nuances of Stardew Valley or some of the like DIY mechanics in Animal Crossing, like you will get the most in-depth, like there are people who have this down to a science. I can't even begin to speak on it because I am just not that good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Like
so I
people
think,
with spreadsheets and
yeah.
freaking
It's
Oh my
like
intimidating.
gosh.
all the turnip prices, and like
It's
I'm afraid to go
wild.
into those dark corners, you know?
Yeah. And so it's like there's this minimization of things that are deemed more feminine or womanly. I also think it's really interesting that there's still stigma. This is a slightly different type of stigma, but there's like platform stigma still. So I think we're seeing more openness towards genres. Like there's a farming sale. Okay, like we're starting to see a little bit more acceptance of farming as a genre. Also, it's like honestly survival light, like if we're really looking at it. Which survival I feel like is deemed more masculine because I don't know why it's not as cute a lot of the time. I actually don't even know. Would love to unpack that further too. But I think platforms of like mobile gaming specifically is the thing that is more stigmatized, whether consciously or not, because it is something that like, oh, everyone has a phone. So it's like it's easy to play those games. Everyone has those games versus like PC or PlayStation or Xbox. It's like, oh no, you had to get something special to play this game. This is different. This is a real game just because it's not on your phone, which is silly because it's like we can play Hades on our phones.
Yeah.
We
We can
literally
play
just
before
talked
your
about,
eyes.
yeah, playing one of the greatest games ever made on your phone.
Yeah. So I
I
think there's
also want to
like,
shout out
yeah.
Usagi Shima, which is one of
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
most like I was in that game forever. It is a game where you are on a bunny island and you are making an island perfectly for your bunnies in order for them to like to show up and to give you carrots as like a tip so you can make more things, and it is unbelievable how much that system sucks you in and you cannot stop, and you are like constantly like, it's my lunch break, I have to check to see if my bunnies have come. And like it is it is the same language I am going to use for Manor Lords, but I can promise you more people are going to go check out Manor Lords after I recommend
Mm-hmm.
it than Usagi Shima.
Yeah.
Even though it's a mobile game and you can play it for free and go check it out right now. Same, slightly different, but similar. Not enough people are enjoying Caves of Lore, and that's a great game. It is so fantastic to play it on mobile. I like it better on mobile than on PC, and I've played it on both. So the fact that I am pushing people to that mobile space rather than the PC, and people are still getting it on PC if they're getting it at all, is like it is a result of this. What you are talking about, Jenny, is mobile is you have a phone, but you can't prove that you're a serious gamer with it.
Listen, one of the best 3D Sonic games, it's on mobile. That's a fact. It's not a joke. Don't look at me. Indie games. Is Sonic an indie?
We're not going to
Anyways.
have this argument.
Probably
Jenny.
not.
I forgot to play that game, the Sonic indie game.
I was
Never
actually
mind.
thinking about that. Yeah, like you.
Yeah, I forgot to play it.
Yeah, well, it's too
I
late.
think I agree with everybody, obviously. It kind of comes down, it's like the stupid like console war stuff also, and like a little bit of tribalism, a little bit. And it's funny, Jen, you mentioned like name 5 Marvel movies or Marvel comics, whatever. It's like the band t-shirt thing, like somebody walking down the street wearing a Nirvana shirt is like, all right, track list never mind front to back, you know. And it's like if you walk around PAX with a Stardew Valley shirt or whatever it may be, okay, name 10 farming sims or whatever. Yeah, it's this weird stigma of I don't know, like certain genres being lesser than others, which is not true. It kind of comes down to the cliche of judging a book by its cover. It feels like Jill, you mentioned having to sort of fight to really put Botany Manor on people's radars and like really explain the systems and like kind of like hand feed them a little bit to explain why this game is so special and not just another light thing where you're planting flowers. Like there's actual depth and like thoughtful mechanics. Yeah, I think a lot of people just tend to judge games by their genre judged by their art style, judged by, I don't know, their basic concept, maybe, without even like giving it the time of day, which is sad. Um, Jill, yeah, similar to you, I think maybe my first indie game, probably like many others, was some of the early Xbox Live Arcade stuff, like Super Meat Boy, stuff like that. But even then, like I never thought of that
Same.
like indie versus AAA, or didn't really understand like the disconnect. It was just like video games. But I had friends in high school that strictly did not consider indie games real video games. Like they were lesser games, they were incomplete because they weren't paying, I guess at the time, $50 or $60 for a AAA experience. No matter the genre, they didn't consider it a real video game, which is sad. And I feel like there are still, I mean, not feel, there definitely are still audiences out there that wouldn't give something like a Botany Manor or Before Your Eyes or a Rusty's Retirement or what another Crap's Treasure the time of day.
Okay, but you actually got me thinking about another stigma, where I'm like, if a game maybe doesn't have depth and maybe it is easy and straightforward.
I was going to get into that next, yeah.
I feel like that should also be seen as like very valid and good.
Yeah,
and if
100%.
you want to play, yeah, which I know that's not what you're saying, but it got me thinking about like,
I mean, Spirit
also,
City is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, well, it's like if there's something that isn't challenging, that shouldn't be seen as lesser. And it is, I think, also one of the sort of stigmas that still is very apparent, that people like, even when I talk sometimes, I'm like, oh yeah, I look for a game with this kind of depth. And I think sometimes even the way I phrase it, there's this underlying potential implication of, oh, if it doesn't have depth, it's not good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what I intend, but I know that I'm like almost conditioned to speak like that in some ways. Like I want to validate cozy games by saying they have depth, and I'm like, no, I should be able to say it's just a really cute game, and that should be okay.
I think the same could be said for length also.
Mm-hmm.
If a game isn't 100 hours long, it's not valid. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I was just gonna like add to what Jenny, you had like pointed out from Mike's like comparison with like the Botany Manor thing. Yeah, like it's not necessarily like things need to have depth, but like I think there's craftsmanship, I guess, is maybe more like maybe a better way to phrase it, because they're definitely like, you know, games that like I don't really think are good, and then games that I do think are good. And what's like the difference? It's about like, I think, the craftsmanship and also the execution of like the idea that you set out to accomplish. Like there isn't inherently like a lot of, you know, depth in something like Tetris, which I think is one of the greatest games of all time, but there's the intrigue comes from like the variety and like the situations you kind of put yourself in that game. And I think like there's a lot of ways to be intrigued by a game, regardless of genre, but like farming and like cutesy games in general definitely like have that lane. And I think one of the things that I've noticed in terms of indie games, cute games, farming, like whatever kind of games that like maybe are sort of assumed to be like, but do I really need to like check this out? And I think too, it's part of the and I'm like big on keeping up with like the hot titles. And there are games that I'll play because they're like big games and like they're worse than other games, and I still check them out. I spend more time with them than I have great games burn in the backlog, and I'm like, I kind of really want to just see this other thing through just for the clout. I don't know, like just to keep up with it. So like I fall into that too, and I think that can be natural for people. But I feel like sometimes with farming sims and with like just indie games in general, there's like they start out almost in the negative. While I think sometimes when we do like those AAA check-ins, it's like, hey, like what'd you think of this? Like let's unpack it. And sometimes it's like you bring like a smaller game to the table or a fringe genre game to the table, and it's kind of like, all right, so like, does this matter? And it's like, whoa, like, first of all, how dare you? Second of all, maybe it doesn't, right? But like, why can't we? I think sometimes there's that issue too, where like, and I think this can happen a lot, like in the indie community, because there is that like desire for indies to grow, like, and I want that too, but like, I want to talk about everything the way I talk about everything. Like, I don't want it to only be, no, sorry, like if we're not bringing Before Your Eyes to the table, like we don't even need to break down like anything else. I feel like there's so many layers to like the assumptions that kind of get made about that, where it's like, okay, like not only does I feel like there's this expectation of like a farming indie sim, like if it's not Stardew Valley, do we even need to like kind of almost give it the time of day? And I think that's such a high bar, and a specific bar, and like not, I feel like that's not, we don't necessarily hold like that goal post for AAA necessarily either. So I'm like, okay, well, I feel like sometimes when like people are already people start out like uninvested almost, like, hey, almost like those like debate me bro kind of attitude, like, hey, convince me this is good. It's like I don't really like starting out in that zone is already like you're already kind of far gone if you need to start out there. And I encourage people to be, I think, a little bit more open to, hearing and exploring. I'm a firm believer that there's a game for everyone in every genre. And I think, hopefully Steam, the kind of like Farm Fest sale for people listening that maybe don't like farming games, maybe might check around, look into. I really do think even if you don't like that genre and don't like what that style often offers, there is probably something out there for you that you would find intriguing. And I think that's what's really cool about like a fest like this, that sort of highlights the scope of what can people do with this genre idea, because there are like a lot of different implementations of it. I mean, like Mike Discord messaged us about this game about growing weed. It's like, I don't know, maybe that's gonna hit for
It's
you.
new hotness.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like obviously they're offering different angles but similar stylization. So yeah, I think that's just another thing that people often run into with this, where it's like it needs to be like the greatest game ever. It's like sometimes it can just be fine and still really enjoyable, and that's like fine too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As a side note, just because you sort of got this in my head, I was curious about sort of the difference between like, because when we look at indies, oftentimes we're like, oh, let's talk about the Stardew Valleys. Let's talk about like the Undertales, these like sort of shining stars in the indie space. And then we compare everything sort of to those bars. Just as a point of comparison, so I'm looking at Steam, and the Steam reviews are often a way to gauge like the sales or sort of the general popularity of a game. It gives you a ballpark. And granted, some of these games are not released as long ago as Stardew Valley, but Stardew Valley has like 590,000 Steam reviews compared to most of the other games that are in like the top sellers, which are like 20,000, 50,000, and then you jump all the way down to like 2,000, 15,000. The number, just like looking at that and seeing the scale of difference, shows maybe more numerically for folks who might want that kind of comparison. Like, it's when you're comparing indies, comparing it to something like a Stardew is not comparing apples to apples after a certain point, in terms of just expectation, I would say.
Yeah. I think part of what makes me very excited again about the farming fest that's going on in Steam right now, and generally just the kind of games that continue to be made, Botany Manor is of course on the top of my head because it just came out, shows that we are evolving in the way that games are being thought about, the way that games are consumed, and the people who are consuming them and how they're thinking about things. I know that's especially true for me, because now I am, of course, 100% indie, and I love indie games. I have followed games forever, and I'm following the statistics all the time of what percentage male to female of gamers are, and it's not that, like, you would suspect it was higher, but the spread is really close. It's like 48 to 50% female to male gamers. So like the fact that this audience exists and it has been there forever and is only now getting things to play with and has like games that reflect me, that are made by people who look like me and think like me and are interested in things like me, is a real reason why the indie space is so special and so important to me, because it is a place that allows for, and it's not an easy space, and it's not like a Garden of Eden or anything, but like it does allow for new ideas and new creativities, new creators to come up and to really show things that the AAA space is, not caught up with yet. And I am glad that these stigmas are starting to erode away, but we do need to continue to push back on them and really examine, why do I dismiss this particular genre or this particular type of game or this particular
Some people don't want to
visual style?
relax, It's
Yeah.
like
It's like, it's fine. It's cool. Just relax. Go
I
plant
can't.
some weed,
they're like, if I relax, yeah.
Sorry, it's medicinal herbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, medicinal herbs. I'm
Another
sorry.
one
Now
for the
part of Steam
soundboard,
Farm
but,
Fest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think too, like, there is that kind of assumption of like, what are you gonna get out of it? And I think people are like, I don't know, I don't want to like just look at cute cows. It's like, again, there's other angle. Like, I as someone that's been I've been getting into like physical puzzles a little bit more and just like sitting and doing that. I've also, as I mentioned last episode, like been playing Stitch, and it's like
Yep.
the calmness and like the coolness that comes with the design of something that is rote without being boring is like, I feel like that is such a common like human touchstone. And I get that maybe not everyone is, not everyone likes doing like puzzles. Some people do find them boring. So like I kind of get that, but at the same time, like I think if you reflect, you may be surprised by the things that you might actually find interesting and how that like could really translate into like the video game space. And I do think that's why it's been such a why so many of these games end up being like entry points or favorites of folks that might not really like jump to label themselves gamers or might have a specific lane, because it's like it is so core what people have liked to do for ages, like just kind of tinkering with things, making things. Yeah, I feel like it's just it's so common. So I think that's also part of like the popularity of it, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. The really fascinating, because I watch a lot of creators specifically in the cozy space just because of what I do. What's been really interesting is the jump from, I mentioned this a little earlier, but the jump from like farming sim to survival crafting games has been really fascinating to me, especially because we've had this almost this generation or wave of creators who started playing games and really started jumping back into games for the first time during COVID, discovered the Switch, sort of rediscovered PC gaming. And so a lot of them began with these cozy games. A lot of them
Mhm.
played Ooblets and Stardew and Coral Island. And now a lot of them, like Enshrouded is super popular with a lot of them, which is
Yes.
fascinating. Pacific Drive was really popular with a fair number of them. And so it's interesting also to see like that is coming sort of the other way, where it's like these players who are using farming games as their gateway into these other genres. They are finding their way into like other things. And I would love to see that happen the other way around, where it's like someone who loves Enshrouded, maybe like Light Your Frontier will be right up your alley, And so it's like finding other ways, just like you all have said, just be open, try new things, because you may be surprised at what you find really exciting and relaxing and intriguing at the end of the day.
I think that was a good discussion for our topic. I'm going to move on unless anybody wants to jump in. Okay.
You're still saying it a little derisively.
know.
It's
No.
less hateful now, but I still feel a little bit of the hate. I appreciate that you're coming towards the other side.
The pause was so quick, though. It was like nothing. No, okay, bye.
Yeah.
No one will speak now. Moving on to games we've been playing. Let's talk Janet.
Sure.
I got a code for this game. I've not yet played it, so I want to hear what you are feeling about pools.
Oh, pools, yeah. Pools is honestly like pretty rad. If this is a game that this is an art game for art nerds, if you're
Hell
into like
yeah.
the weirdo stuff,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, what if do you ever think about thinking about space? Like, this is for you. If you're like, I need a actual game like that's structured, like that, maybe not. So basically, what Pools is, it's developed and published by Tensori. Admittedly, I first saw Pools because like IGN had tweeted out because they're like, look how cool this game looks. I was like, you're not wrong. This does look really cool. It is a very like high fidelity, beautiful looking PC game, and it is all about exploring like liminal spaces inspired by backrooms. So what that means, if you're not familiar with that terminology, it's that idea of like a liminal space is sort of like eerie and how normal it is. And like, an example of a liminal space would be like in this game, for instance, it's like you enter like a hallway and the ceiling is like pretty tall and it's all made of tile, and there's like footprints from you because you exited the pool, but also you turned around. Is it all like what's going on? Oh, it's like, so it's like that fear you have when it's like you enter a train station and it's like empty, even if no one ever shows up. It's like that's still kind of scary. It's like, oh, would you like to spend the night here? No. Like, hell no. So it's that it doesn't have. I didn't beat it, so like I don't think it does go against this. Like, I don't think it has anything in it. There's no monsters. There's no jump scares. There's no like any of that stuff. The closest there is life force for the game. There's like a big rubber duck at one point, and it's like that scared me. But like it really is
I don't
just
know, Jen.
like
I've seen some shit on TikTok that begs to
yeah.
differ.
maybe I don't know. I didn't finish it yet. But it's just like an unsettling space, and there's like really what I like about this is it's sort of I guess getting the most out of what you can do with like base assets, because I think a lot of games are constructed to have, you know, something going on, something pulling or pushing you. This is like, hey, walk around this like really high fidelity space I like designed. There's a chair there, you can sit in it. Do you want to? You don't, do you? You're scared, aren't you? It's like that. It's like that's what it's messing with, and it's really interesting. I think if you're someone that liked, this is like kind of a not a super deep cut, but I remember like Radiohead put out like an experience on PlayStation that was like walking through like trippy versions of their albums. Like if you like that kind of thing, if you're like, I want to walk around a cool looking space and engage with like semi heavy handed, but also sort of accurate sound design. It's like if that kind of thing appeals to you. Genuinely, if you just look at the trailer and you're like, that seems cool, you'll like this. If you look at this and you're like, what's the point? Don't play it. Because it's like the truth is the point is really more of the artsy, trippy, scary experience. Like I think this is a game that very much plays with one of the best aspects of horror to me, which is the fear of what your mind pictures could be there.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing scarier than like the imagination, and this game is leaning into that, and it also just looks really beautiful. Like I think this is it's just super cool. I think it's like 2 hours for How Long to Beat. I'm 40 minutes in. Admittedly, I don't think I'm as far as I should be because I got hella lost. That's the only, I guess, the only con I'll give is because they are trying to create like trippy, weird space. You're like, where are you going? I'm also like, no, but where am I going? Because like I think we went around this corner 8 times. Also, there's slides in this game, and yes, you can go down the slides, and I went down a slide, and it was cool. I guess to your point, Mike, I did see like a in the 40 minutes I played, like there's like there are moments where there's like it feels like there's things or beings around, but it's definitely not like, oh my god, I'm running from like at least from what I play, I'm running from something or something's there. There's like but there's like it's like, oh, did someone just go down that ladder? I can't go down there. What's going on with that? But I would say it's not like, you know, hardcore horror, but it is a little scary. So I think, you know, kind of know yourself. I think you know if you're listening whether or not this is something that's too scary for you or like what have you. But yeah, I think Pools, if you're open to it, everyone should just check it out because I think it's just like I like weird little experiment stuff like that. I think it's very fun.
I also got the chance to drop in during your stream of
Yeah.
Another Crab's Treasure. So
Oh,
how
yeah,
are you
you were there.
feeling about that? You and Jenny have this on your list, so y'all can talk about how you're experiencing it so far.
Yeah, I'll go first just because I think Jenny's has to be farther than me because I'm only like an hour in and like I don't know, you know me, I'd just start walking around, but nothing got done. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I went into it kind of, I think, expecting something a little bit more that felt more traditionalist, which is funny because I'm like the Souls person that doesn't like Souls. You know, like I don't like Souls games, but I keep playing them, kind of thing. So it's like it's weird to complain like I don't feel like it's Souls enough, but like I don't like Souls, so like don't I? You know what I mean? It's like a weird.
Yeah.
I'm in a weird spot, but
It was one of those things where I hadn't actually thought about it, but it is very different because there is no stamina connected.
yes,
to
and yeah, when you
movement.
pointed that out, I was like, that's one of the because again, I'm very much a Souls novice. Like I did technically play Demon Souls and beat it. I did get carried, and I stood in the back while like my people fought for me, and I was like, don't die, because like I might die while you're respawning in. You know, like that was the
That's
vibe.
100% valid way to play.
I
any
know,
of the
but
Souls
also,
games.
you know, so it's like, okay, I don't know. And there's also things about the Souls games that I don't like. Like, I think that freaking part of Demon Souls where each time you get hit by this boss, you go down a level. Come on. I get it. You guys are good at game. Like, anyway, those are my own hangups. Don't got to bring that into this show. But, like, you know, it's been a messy genre for me. But I didn't connect with it in the way that, like, I hoped I would. Like, Lies of P is a Souls game that, like, really spoke to me a lot in a lot of its sensibilities. I will say by the end of my time with Another Crab's Treasure, again, I only played like an hour or two, I did start to warm up once I kind of learned, like, or got into the things that it did have to offer. Like, I really like that you can, like, jump. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie, again, I'm a bit of a sucker. You can put on, like, different handkerchiefs and stuff on him, and I'm like, I do like a little outfit. I do like a little outfit. So it's one that like I don't know when I'll get back to it because I was not like, oh my god, I'm like loving this, but I am intrigued enough to want to continue. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think because it's so open, that's another thing that I've kind of noticed for myself with Souls style games. I know a lot of people were like, Elden Ring's the thing. Oh my god, it's open, so you can go anywhere. It's great. That I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I need a little hallway, and I fight the same little guy in the hallway, and then eventually I open a door, and the door goes to the other side of the hallway. Like that is like what is easier for me to deal with progression wise usually. So I don't know how the structure is going to work for me right now. I am just enjoying like getting to explore and like and jump around and like collect the little trinkets and kind of see what's going on. Like I don't have a big commentary on it yet, other than I did not fall in love with it, but I am intrigued and I'm interested in continuing. But Jenny, you're a lot further. Where are you at with this? You're like all in on the little what does it have a name? I don't know. Your little buddy.
Krill? Yeah, I think it's Krill. So for folks who are familiar with the game or maybe are also playing it, I just defeated the first. I think technically she's the second boss, but like I've beat the first main area.
The first main boss.
Yeah, the first main boss. I think technically she's the second though, because Nephro, the first one, is counted as a boss in their achievements. But I'm like, he still feels like a mini boss. Like he doesn't feel
like a tutorial boss.
Yeah, like a tutorial boss. So he doesn't feel like the first boss, but technically I think he is. Anyways,
real quick, hilariously enough, I hear Kelsey downstairs who just booted it up because I heard the
that's really funny
menu sound.
Oh. I thought you were going to say
on
I
the
heard
pod,
someone say lawbreakers.
Like, hey, what do you think about what you're booting up right now?
But I think I agree with you. I think Janet, the intro of the game I think does a really good, like the immediate intro is great. They set the scene really well. You immediately are like, oh my gosh, the shark is taking my shell. I gotta go get it. And then when you dropped into the ocean for the first time, I do think it, for me, feels a little bit too open and a little bit too, like, I don't know if empty is necessarily the right word, but there's just a lot of space. And I'm like, I get it because it's the ocean. So like, obviously there's a lot of space, but there's this vastness to it that for me isn't quite like, that doesn't hook me necessarily. I think I'm like you, where I need a bit more guidance. I need it to feel a bit more full or constricted somehow. So I'm like, it just feels better for me. But I will say, after defeating, I think Nephro is his name, that tutorial boss, the first boss, whatever you call him, once you defeat him, I do feel like the world and your mission starts to hone in a bit more, and you start to get a sense of like, okay, this is the next place I need to go. This is the thing I need to get. And I think that's when the game really started to gel for me. I do feel like though there is, and I don't know if this is just a me issue because I'm not good at these kind of games. I would say I'm like semi okay at best. So it's
I was watching you play. You're good.
Really? Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's gotta be true because Jill is good. So you're good by the. This is like the Tribeca Fest. I'm like, this game has to be good because it's next to other good games.
The transitive property.
But I think there's like a difficulty spike. There's a difficulty sort of wave that happens in this game that I think is if you're not familiar with Souls-likes especially, could probably feel a bit inaccessible and a bit intimidating. And they have options that you can click on to like modify some of it. But I think even for me, and I haven't beaten Elden Ring, but I've played a decent amount of Elden Ring. I felt like the differences in difficulty between some of the bosses and some of the encounters, I was just like, whoa, I was not ready for this. Like the Duchess, which is one of the first bosses you fight, I took an embarrassing amount of time to beat her because it was just such a different fight. The game doesn't really prep you for it in terms of like the environment, because it's a very different environment. You go from the super open to like a very constrained space. And so I think there's some polish that could have been had, or like maybe some easing of the player could have been done, because it is marketed, I think, as like not as super accessible, because I think they've always been very clear, like, hey, this is going to be this is a Souls-like game. This is going to be tough. But I think they could have eased a little bit of that difficulty spike in some of the places at the very beginning. I'm now moving into the next area, which is a lot more narrative driven. We get to talk to a lot more characters, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I'm excited to just continue with my time with the game. I'm going to keep playing it. Just because I think the way Aggro Crab as a whole addresses just bigger thematic elements in their games, aside from what's at face value happening, is really interesting to me. I think they have a lot to say as a studio, and so I think that for me is enough to keep me going. So I'll probably keep it through to the end.
Yeah, I'll
Love to
say
hear it.
once you get to the hub area, I feel like that's when the game really
Really kicks
starts.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it is when I first started playing it, it was a slow start. Doing it on my second playthrough, it felt more cohesive, but that's just because I knew what I was doing at that point. I
Mm-hmm.
think some of those skills should have been just core mechanics from the get-go that have been unlocked, because it
Or
would have
it
made
should
that
have been
Duchess fight way easier.
like if they had like teleported you and made you go back to the moon jelly.
Yeah,
Like
like it
that would have
sort of
been
encourages you to do it because like they're like a low barrier to entry in terms of currency you have to spend. So like I see what they were trying to do, but like being able to, like, for Jenny, for example, did you have like the grapple mechanic when fighting the Duchess, like where you could grapple her and like stun
Uh,
her pretty much?
no, I did not.
Yeah, which could have went a long way.
Yeah.
Same with like parrying and stuff like that. Like some of the basic stuff should have just been not tied to skills.
I will also say I did the really silly thing and I put nothing into vitality. So I also went into the Duchess fight with no extra vitality.
Sure,
yeah, that's harsh.
I
No,
was
Jenny,
all
that
aggro.
that Duchess fight I
it's
wrote about
rough.
in my review, and it was one of the things where I'm like, I almost quit the game because of this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because you
and
get
I
like
think
in that Duchess fight, like when, not to get like super spoiler or anything, but beginning of the game, first like major boss, I would say, like she has like a little T thing that she swings around. Like
Mhm.
if you have the parry skill, you could parry that and it stuns her. Like it makes the fight so much easier. Same with
Yeah.
the grapple mechanic. Like interesting choices for the beginning of the game, but like yeah, once you get to that hub area and you get to like what you're doing for the remainder of the game, like the actual treasure hunt of part of the game,
Mhm.
that's when things really start. Like it really finds its groove.
So there you go. Another Crab's Treasure, everybody. Jenny, you have been playing another game that also came out this week, and I believe that you can talk about it. So I would like to hear
Yes.
a little bit about it.
Yeah, I have just dabbled. I haven't gotten too far into Surmount, but I've started playing it. I am so bad at this game. Oh my god. Like I so the premise of this game is you are a climber, you just got to get to the top of the mountain. There's some other, there's some other story bits, but really it's a climbing game. Climbing and platforming, and there's sort of this momentum based circly swinging mechanic that you use or that you can use to climb, as well as sort of a grapple hand, one hand over the other, uh, sort of mechanic. I have not really dealt with physics in a long time now, I'm realizing, and I'm really bad at like determining trajectory, momentum. I clearly have no perception on like what goes where. So it's been a bit of a struggle for me, but I'm having a blast just because it's so cute and fun. I will admit I've like brute forced my way through like the tutorial level, through some of the initial like levels of the mountain. But I like it. I think they offer some places where there's like a tutorial section or like a training section that you can go to that I'm probably could stand to use a bit more. But I am stubborn and I honestly just want to climb the mountain and learn by doing. So I've been doing that. And yeah, I'm very bad at it, but I'm having a good time. There's a co op option, which I'm going to be hoping to try this weekend, see if it makes it any better. I assume it'll probably make it worse and harder in the best way, because my partner does not also play climbing games at all. So he's better at games than I am. So I'm hoping he can also carry me and learn more quickly. But I think so far it's been a really fun game. I haven't gotten far enough in the story to really determine if that for me has stuck, but the physics, really fun. And I like the art style. I think it's kind of got this like sort of play, what is it? Not Play-Doh, it's not Legos, but like the Duplo, I guess, almost
Playmobil?
Playmobil Duplo kind of feel to some of the graphics too. So it's the style that I really like. So yeah, I'm having a good time.
It's just straight up
Um,
Mies also.
Really
It's great.
quick, is it? And I should know this because I've been looking forward to this game. But by looking forward, I mean I saw it once and I was like, yeah, like okay, yeah, sure. Is it? Is it like a one shot? Like, hey, gets to the top of the mountain and it's just about like getting good enough, or is there like a progression system like within that? Are there like several
There's
climbing
like
challenges or?
yeah, it's like is a ginormous mountain. This is like the unsurmountable mountain. So like there are
Is that actually
areas
its name?
of the
Because
mountain.
that's a great name.
I actually don't remember. It should be, honestly. But no, there are like, I think it's, I don't know because I've only played like
Sure,
maybe
yeah.
about an hour, but I think it's all one mountain and there are actually just different levels of the mountain. I guess kind of like Celeste, I suppose, where it's like one mountain and you have like different sections that each sort of
Okay.
provide different challenges on the way up.
Yeah. I'm surprised, Janet, that you haven't jumped into this because I know you're a big fan of Bread and Fred.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Climbed into
Man,
it.
if only
Bread and Fred is so good.
if only Isaiah could have made it as I forgot if he. I was the one with the big forehead, as I am in real life. I think that was Fred. Like the I think he was Brett. I don't know. That game's awesome, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I just have not had time for it yet. I'm gonna play it on Friday, so I'll report back next week.
Another game that's coming out this week that I think everyone should be checking out and jumping into is Indica.
Yes.
It is so bizarre and weird and compassionate and loving and video game and it's so weird. It is you play as Indica, who is a young woman and a nun. And they treat religion in a very sensitive and interesting way, in a way that you don't see a lot of the times in games. So I really like to see that aspect, which is really cool. Um, she is I mean, essentially, if you're waiting for like Hellblade to come out, you should probably spend your time checking this out because we've got a lot of parallels here. She's a young woman who is a nun, and unfortunately, you learn very quickly that she is struggling with mental illness, and because the community around her does not recognize what is happening to her, and she certainly doesn't recognize what is happening to her, she believes that she's hearing the devil, and the people around her believe that there is unholiness about her. So she very quickly is out of the convent for reasons that she doesn't know. She thinks that this is a good thing, and I'm only a couple of hours in, so I can't say for certain what is going to happen with our poor indie guy here, but I suspect that this is not the optimistic trip that she wants it to be. The other thing that is so completely surprising about Indica, which I didn't get until I played the original preview back in like February, this game goes from very bleak, realistic, like winter in Russia sort of game to like shiny pixel art. And that
Oh.
usually happens in
Mhm.
memories. So like you start the game out and you see a pixel figure of a woman falling, and you get no communication about what you're supposed to do or what's happening, but just your gamer instincts kind of kick in and you try to collect the coins that you see on the screen, and you're moving them back and forth, and when you don't get them all in a row, they disappear and you have to start over again. So you're like you immediately get caught in this loop of like getting the magical golden thing that you don't know what they are and you don't know what they're for, and that's kind of leads into like the mental space that Indica is in, and you can't help yourself from going after these things, even though at one point in the game it literally tells you don't worry about the points are meaningless, but I'm still going after the points because the numbers go up, and then I level up.
Checks out.
But when I
Mhm.
level up and the skill tree pops up, I'm upgrading things like my grief level or my humility level,
Mhm.
and the only thing that you get either an immediate increase in your points or a multiplier chance when you do get points. And again, the game has already told you the points are pointless. Like, it's told you not to mess with them, but I know that I'm going to keep doing it because I can't help myself, which is such an interesting way to approach a game that is involved and centralized around mental health, because Indica is also seeing things that she knows can't be real. But she can't help but freak out when something scary is in front of her, and it doesn't matter if she's in the middle of a religious ceremony and everyone's going to look at her. It's a reaction she literally cannot help having. So it puts you in very real her mentality. And like, when a game conflates the player and the character, I am always such a sucker for this. So and the game gets weirder, you know? Like, I don't want to ruin a lot of what's happening in this game, but
The
like,
fact that everything you said was already really weird, and then you said, and then the game gets weirder, is like the best sell, I feel like, of
yeah,
this.
it's like your puzzle. A lot of the gameplay is kind of narrative, walking and talking to people, but the large part of the gameplay mechanics are like environmental puzzles, which you solve by literally going in and out of hell.
Yeah. How sorry, I started choking. How are those puzzles? Because I did skim some like reviews a little bit, and I feel
Mhm.
like some people were like, "Oh, the puzzles are like, what's been your experience like with that so far?"
I'm curious about that
Again,
too.
I am not that far into the game, so I don't know if they get more complicated or get more irritating or whatever, but so far it is essentially just a matter of stepping back, looking at the scene in one dimension.
Wait, I forgot. You're too smart. I should not have asked you. Never mind. I'm
So
sorry.
I could provide context.
Oh, did you play it as a
I did
fellow
not. I did not play it
Okay.
yet, but
Wait,
a
what did I
fellow
what did I
dumb.
I'm
say?
sorry.
I thought I was being really
You might be. I'm sorry. And so
So,
this is not to dismiss your experience. It's just that I remember as you were going and he was kind of going down a like, oh, I thought they were not too bad. I was like, wait, you're really smart though. So I was like,
okay.
you know what I mean?
Okay.
Because you're,
So,
you're like Obra Dinn's like low hanging fruit for you, and I'm like,
no.
I might
Obra
need
Dinn
a
is
dumber
hard.
person to ask this
I'm not
question
gonna-
to. Anyway, but go ahead.
fellow dumb Becca
Yeah.
Smith reviewed Indica for
Okay.
6 Indie. She struggled quite a bit with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which also
Yeah,
you said
she
you
beat
know,
it. She got through it, but like she said, it was quite the challenge to like see through to the end. It was worth it to see it through to the end, but she did have some struggle.
when I'm stuck, Jill, I will message you on Discord.
Okay. I will be there anytime you need me. It's 3:00 in the morning and Janet needs to get through this.
I'm
part of the
sure you're
puzzle.
up
Let's go.
writing, so I'm sure you would answer.
It is a lot of stepping back and really taking in the scene from one angle and taking in the scene from another angle and being like, what's different? And like, you can kind of see when I've played the original preview, I did that a lot where I'm like, I'm sorry, chat, just hang on for a second. What's different?
Mm.
So yeah, there is a lot of that, but the premise, and you have to be so intrigued by a game that gets both a 5 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10 in its reviews, because the reviews went up this morning. So it really depends on what you gel with and what hits you. For me personally, this game is hitting on a lot of emotional levels. I really enjoy all the weirdness, like things are happening and she's going places and people, pop up, and I am in equal parts like excited and scared to see what's going to happen next, and that always makes me feel good about a game. So that is Indica, so go check that out. Another game that's up right now, it's not fully out, but there's a demo for Isla, a Frosty Glide. And I also played this because I sat down to write something. I was like, I've got too much energy. I need to just show people what I'm playing here. They've changed a lot since the first time I played this. This was originally it's on itch.io, so you can go check that out. It was originally a game jam game, and it started when I played it, it had like one button that you had to remember. And now it's got like your kick flipping off of like
Hell yeah.
ice, and you've got different things and you can change your sweaters, and it's just grown. So it is so much fun to see how much it is growing into a fully developed game. But essentially, you're playing as a witch, and that witch is headed off to prove herself in some way in this mountain region. And your job is to get to the top of the mountain using your handy witch broom, which is also a skateboard. So it plays like a skating game, but it's magical. So you're constantly finding magical upgrades so that you can glide for longer, and you can uh, do more jumps so that you're getting more elevation. And of course, because it's an adventure game, you've got all these little side paths and it branches off, and you have to decide, like, am I going after that? Am I going after that? One of the neat, cool things they just put in was shortcuts. So now if you fall down the mountain, you can get back up to where you were pretty quickly by jumping on giant mushrooms. And that's hilarious. So, yeah, go check this out. I'm really excited about it. Um, Janet, it looks like you are also playing something that you've talked about before, but you're playing again. What is it?
Yeah, I'm doing back into Words in Progress. Don't need too much time on this. It's an Apple Arcade game developed by. Oh God, it starts with a G again. It's like one. They
G-Unit.
made. They is which what is it?
G-Unit?
No.
G-Unit?
Damn, not again. The twofer. They're the team that made Lake. But this is a again for those who maybe missed the episode where I mentioned it. It is a words game where you are given several tiles of letters, vertical facing. So it might be like, A, E, F, Z, H, whatever. And then as you like click and drag them together. So it might be like you take an S to an I and now you have is or something like that, right? And then once you do that, you clear an empty space on like your board basically, or like your playmat, virtual playmat, and then another tile comes in. And like you can see like how many tiles are kind of like left in the deck, and you can like submit words at any time once you have them. You can also submit stuff if you don't form a word and you're like, I just need to get rid of these letters. And all that gives you points. You gain more points based on like the complexity of the word. You get an extra 10 points if you use all your tiles to spell words. And the thing that I've gotten really into is like playing against like people that I know. And I also played against one random person just to see like what is it like if I hit like the Words in Progress streets? Like, am I on? It's kind of like when you play like it's like I'm good at Smash Bros. And then you play someone that's good, and you're like, no, I'm not. And then you just kind of hang that part of your life up. So I was like, what's gonna happen if I go out into the world? And I won my one rando match, so I was proud of that. But yeah, I've been playing with my brother, and I played a little bit against my boyfriend Isaiah. I will say my only gripe about this game, it's more of like an Apple, I think, issue, but like it's a long process to go from like, oh, I can play with friends, let me do that, to like we are playing together, just because it's like you got to go to the game center. You got to make sure your stuff is turned on. You got to make sure you're friends. You have to go to like connections on. You have to click on the fact that it says on and then hit allow for that specific game. Like, I don't know. Again, that sounds like it's probably more of an Apple thing than a Words in Progress thing. But like, it kind of took a little while to like we've all had iPhones forever, and it still took us kind of a ridiculous amount of time to really like, okay, are we playing together? And get that kind of going. I kind of wish they did a couple different things with like how they surface stats and like seeing all the information, but generally it is great for, while it's not like on that level of like other word games I like in terms of like solo play, I think the fact that it has that multiplayer element is sort of the secret sauce that has made me rediscover Words in Progress, where it's like, yeah, it's really fun because like in the verses, basically you get all the same letters, like you get the same bag of letters. So it's interesting to see like, oh, what words did you come up with? Like, oh, what stuff like maybe tripped you up? Like, what connections did you maybe make? But yeah, really enjoying my time with that. But yeah, I've kind of rediscovered Words in Progress, trying to make it a somewhat regular thing. You don't have to play at the same time either, since it's like you just have the same bag of tiles. It's like I could finish, and then like whoever I'm playing against can take as long as they want to like complete the game, and you'll just like see each other's scores at the end. So really fun multiplayer experience once you get that part working. Again, you can pair with randos, and it was very quick pairing as well.
Yeah. Before we finish out our games we've been playing, I want to just point out Mike's entry here.
Proceed.
How you doing, Mike? What did you
Fine.
write in the games you've been playing?
I'm currently catching up with the latest season of Below Deck. Captain Kerry is no Captain Lee, but Kerry, you don't fuck with Kerry. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Kerry ain't taking no shit, especially
We all
against this
know
dude Jared right now. Jared, oh, what a Goddamn.
Get out of here,
Yeah,
Jared.
Kelsey from downstairs. F. Jared.
I
Below
really
deck.
hope that Mike picked
Great.
that up. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
I'm
I
gonna-
also started my gun run of Deathless Crab's Treasure.
Oh,
and
fun.
I played because I want to get that platinum since Steam achievements don't matter. And playing 45 minutes of something we can't talk about yet.
That is probably one of the harder things for this week is that May 9th is just around the corner, everybody, and we have a lot of redacted games that we are playing. So keep an eye out for that for next episode. That's going to be a lot of fun. I want to shout out Manor Lords because this game has me. It has me so good.
Hell yeah.
It is essentially, and I think I talked a little bit about it last time. It is essentially a big Risk game. But in the middle of the Risk game, you are playing a build up your town and care about your sheep game. So recently in my escapades, I've just taken over a new region, finally built up my army to a certain level, which included I needed to in some way either trade or build weaponry and armor, which I finally was able to do to take over a new place. So yeah, it's just the systems that are building on top. So now I have two places that I'm trying to keep an eye on and make sure everybody's okay and they're not dying and I'm not taxing them too much. And the other AI character that's also a Manor Lord has taken over like 90% of the board while I'm here with like my two little things. So I'm terrified of what's going to happen. And I also want to shout out that I did get to play Hades 2. And I'm so excited.
Nice.
And
Congratulations.
as a like ancient mythology geek as well as a video game player, I am so pleased with how it feels, what they're
It feels
doing.
so good, dude.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Their interpretations of things are amazing. Seeing like unusual or littler known or littler talked about gods are very interesting to me.
They're also
The
really hot.
playtest. I'm sorry, what?
They're just all really hot.
Yeah.
They're all
somehow
really
hotter.
hot. They're all really
Also,
hot.
Hotter than the first Hades.
Jill, I know you have like way too much work already, but like you should totally write a feature about like the mythology angle because I feel like you
Yeah,
That's
that's
you
so
know
cool.
it in a way that like no offense to everybody else I've talked to about the game, but I feel like people don't usually pop for that specific
That particular-
vertical. So I
Yeah.
feel like
Mhm.
Read a whole
and you see
thesis
you
on
you
it.
you clearly have like stuff to unpack and like I
Yeah.
would read it or at least leave it open long enough
That's
so that
such
the
a good
bounce rate
idea,
doesn't go
and now
higher on
that's-
your website, you know?
That's gonna be like hanging over
I know the
me this
game.
whole time, and like, oh man, that's a good idea. But
Like I usually I've gotten to the point where I'm like I'm not gonna bring a Steam Deck or anything like that to some of these shows because like we play games all damn day. The last thing I want to do is play more games in my hotel room or we're out at night and we were too exhausted to boot something up. 100% bringing the Steam Deck to SGF just on the off chance that Keely drops it,
yeah,
so we could play it on the flight home.
right. And it is the Hades 2 playtest. They said they were cutting it off on Monday. I don't know about
Mhm.
y'all, but mine is still highlighted. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that so that no one takes away my Hades 2 playtest. But they did say in the tweet where they said they were closing down the playtest, that the actual early access, everybody can get into it, is coming relatively soon.
In 1
So
month
that
and
does
6
lend-
days.
Yeah. It lends itself. I was kind of hoping they would shut it down and immediately be like, okay, now early access, but
imagine?
that has not happened. So it sort of leans into the idea of it perhaps being one of the summer features and we'll drop there, you know?
What if
Mike,
it's,
what are you saying?
what if it's May 9th?
Well, that'd be so
Oh
funny.
my gosh.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
like throw that out
Just
there.
wreck
The other day,
everyone
someone brought up
else's
a game to
plans.
me, and I said, "Is it out on May 9th?" as a joke, and it was. I don't even know
Yeah.
what game it was. I'm like,
Yeah. So that's what everybody has been playing. Janet, did you have one more?
Yeah, I can be very quick with this. Content warning. A lot of people know about this game already. It is a kind of Lethal Company like. I don't know if that genre has a name yet. I know Phasmophobia did it before Lethal Company, and somebody did it before them. So it's open. The floor's open. If you'll have I'm looking for someone to let's coin a name for this genre because clearly there's like something there. For those who might be unfamiliar, it's like multiplayer kind of exploratory, spooky, fun vibes is kind of the shtick of these styles of games. In this one, you are like, it's like you and up to 3 other people, like a group of 4 total, and it's like you're kind of in a YouTube hype house. It's like you're looking for spooky stuff to upload to fake YouTube, and then your goal is to get enough views so that you can like continue making content. So it definitely is like, I'm sure some people hear that pitch and you're like, oh my god, way too modern, I roll cringe, and I get that. Genuinely, it's kind of like, I think the commentary is fun. Like I think they do a good job conveying the humor of that. Like when you fail, they're like, oh, you weren't good enough to be famous, but don't worry, it was all a dream. It's like, that's so dumb in a great way. Like you take the camera and you throw it into like a dumpster and then a DVD comes out. I'm like, kids playing this don't know what a DVD is. This is, so there's a lot of like silliness to it. You gain money and you can also use that to like buy things. Again, another stick of that kind of emerging genre. And really, I think the fun of this game, because I played with like the remap crew before this, is in y'all coming up with like dumb angles for like your little, it very much is like inviting you into role playing as like theater kid. Like, it's like, hey, do you want to do like a quick little improv thing? Do you want to like have a little fun? And as much as we like all collectively like smack talk theater kid as like a concept, it can be fun to like, do a little bit of that, have kind of a charadesy, goofy moment. And I think that's the more you like that, the more you're going to eat this game up. I like that, but I'm not that good at it. So I think like my playtime is probably a little bit more limited in a game like Content Warning. But yeah, like you can make like fun little shticks, like Patrick was there like, what's up, like content creators? It's like just silly stuff. And then, it's like, oh, I think then it's also fun kind of playing the what's going to get views, but within this game, it's like, oh, I think if someone dies, that's really going to pop on camera. And it's like, let's get the mics and like, we'll do some fun sound. So again, it's not like you're making like full cinematic, like high art, but it does invite you to like play as being a filmmaker. And I think that's kind of, I think, the fun of the game and what also makes it unique. And I think a lot of people, Content Warning dropped, like, they saw Lethal Company was popular, they rushed to make it, and maybe there's some truth there, right? But I do think they have like unique things to say, their own style. There's things about this that I don't get from Lethal Company. There's also things I get from Lethal Company that I don't get from this. So I think they are like very different styles of games. But yeah, pretty fun adventuring through. The art is also like bonkers, weird, like sketched out stuff like that. It kind of like it reminded me of Bendy and the Ink Machine a little bit, but like more messed up looking. So like, yeah, it's a cool, fun little time. I enjoyed my time with it. I'm not as into it as I was into Lethal Company, but I think again, that's a sensibility thing. If you really like playing YouTuber with like creepy stuff happening, oh, come on. Like this game is really good at conveying that. You can buy silly stuff. I love buying dumb stuff. I'm like, let's spend all the money on this ball of goo and just see what happens, like that's the kind of game it is. So that's Content Warning. It was free for its first 24 hours. It's $8 now. Check it out if it's of interest to you. If you're looking for something to play with friends, I think you'll definitely have a good time with it. It's just like, I don't know how long I think the tail depends on the kind of person you are and the kind of people like your friend group are or is. I don't know how to put that in the right tense. Figure it out. You know what I mean?
It's fine.
Jen is a true champion of the indies because she purposefully did not redeem it in the first 24 hours, of course, purposefully, and then decided to pay the $8 today.
I was like, please, I'm doing just fine over here. I already can't buy the house. I live in Los Angeles, so let's just toss the $8 to Steam. Also, guys, I've spent so much more money on games on Steam after doing this show than I ever have.
It's an occupational hazard.
Because
I literally bought 2 games during recording.
Because the games are just like, and again, money's different for everybody. So I'm not trying to say like, oh, $10 isn't anything because whatever, right? It's all relative. But like the games are just like affordable enough where it's like I can do that. But then you do that like 6 different times, and it starts to weigh. But yeah,
you buy $10 games. Oof.
Yeah, I don't even want to know the math on that. And thank God I'm too dumb to know the math on that off the top of my head. So don't tell me about, move to 0, but I don't want to know.
No, we don't talk about decimals.
That's none of my business. How much it adds up to.
It's just $10.
Yeah.
Also, I got to talk to Steam somewhere. I'm still getting charged New York tax. I don't like it.
No.
I don't like it.
Get out of here with.
I don't know how to change it.
You were in New York, but now you're in North Carolina for a year.
Yeah.
You're North Carolinian. You
Take
say
off those
y'all.
20 cents. Jeez.
And with that, that's the end of this week's council. Thank you to everyone for joining us, everybody on the council. Thank you to everybody who is watching. You can follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. No more the Google Podcasts, unfortunately. The Indie Council has its own socials at Indie Council _ on Twitter and at the Indie Council everywhere else. But this session is closed. Go play some indies.